Ben 10 is the absolute definition of early 2000s Saturday morning cartoons, with its first series launching all the way back in 2005, and today we are breaking down every single one. That's right, the original Ben 10 series from beginning to end. So strap on your Omnitrix, grab a snack and hit subscribe so you never miss a hero moment. It's hero time. Let's go. This is Ben Tennyson, a completely ordinary 10-year-old. He's into video games, obsessed with sumo slammers, the whole deal. School just let out for summer and his parents are shipping him off on a road trip with his grandpa, Max Tennyson, a retired plumber dragging Ben across the country in a beat-up RV called the Rust Bucket. Trust me, the name fits, but there's a catch. Also along for the ride is Ben's 10-year-old cousin Gwen, sharp, sarcastic, total teacher's pet, who does not get along with Ben at all. She's here because Max convinced her parents it'd be good for her. And there you go, the core 3 of the entire series. Oh, and this is the Omnitrix, a space watch that lets the wearer transform into different aliens. Get very comfortable hearing about it. For now though, let's jump into episode 1. And then there were 10. We open exactly how every great show should, a massive spaceship battle in outer space. On board one vessel is Vilgax, the main villain of the entire series with exactly one mission: get the Omnitrix. Cut to Earth and we learn more about Ben, class troublemaker with a genuinely good heart, stepping up to protect another kid from school bullies. Thanks a lot, I was just trying to help. Grandpa picks him up, Ben figures out Gwen is tagging along, and the tension kicks in immediately. Back in space, Vilgax's ship gets blasted apart, sending something hurtling toward Earth, which Ben stumbles upon on a late night walk. It cracks open and a green and white watch immediately locks itself around his wrist. That's the Omnitrix. He fiddles with it and transforms into his very first alien, Heat Blast, a creature that fires flames and fireballs. He completely panics, accidentally ignites the forest, and Grandpa and Gwen spot the blaze from a distance. They race over, help put it out, and after Ben explains everything, he contains the rest of the fire. Meanwhile in space, Vilgax deploys a robot to Earth to retrieve the Omnitrix. Grandpa seems to already know something, takes Ben seriously and admits he looks like an alien right now. The symbol on Heat Blast's chest flashes and Ben snaps back to human. Just as the robot lands and releases drones, Ben becomes Wildmutt, his second alien, an orange dog-like creature with no eyes but seriously enhanced senses, kind of like Spider-Man. He must have the Peter tingle. He takes down one drone but times out right in front of the second, which Gwen handles with a shovel. Ben uses the watch once more and becomes Diamond Head. An alien who generates and fires crystals destroys the robot, but realizes he needs a secret identity. Vilgax vows to take the watch. Ben reveals one more alien, Accelerate, blindingly fast. With all these powers, you can imagine what's coming next. Episode 2 opens with Ben rescuing a family from a house fire and introduces his sumo slammer card obsession, which nearly blows his cover. Speaking of introductions, meet Dr. Animo, an unhinged scientist obsessed with mutating animals, who kicks off a crime spree by having a mutant bullfrog eat his landlord. Everyone kind of wants to do that occasionally, sure, but still that's villain behavior. At a grocery store, Ben transforms into grey matter, a tiny creature with enormous eyes, just to peek inside cereal boxes for a rare sumo slammer card, and ends up buying the entire store's supply to cover his damages. After scoring another card, Ben spots Animo bursting in on his frog to shoplift experiment supplies. He mutates a bird and a hamster and nearly drives the whole group out. But even without the Omnitrix ready, Ben finds the courage to deal with the hamster himself. Not even enormous hamsters mess with Ben Tennyson. Animo escapes and the gang follows him to the Natural History Museum, where he reanimates a mammoth as his personal servant. Ben becomes Four Arms, a powerfully built red alien with 4 arms, grabs it by the tusks and slams it hard. Gwen proves herself seriously useful in combat too, no space watch required. Animo escapes again using a reanimated T-Rex and this time takes Gwen hostage, with Ben timing out at the worst possible moment. After Animo drops her on top of the Washington Monument, not if I can help it, it's hero time. Ben becomes Stinkfly, a green insectoid built for flight, and gets up there before she falls. They handle the bird, Gwen's safe, and Ben sets aside his sumo slammer's obsession to destroy Animo's helmet, the source of his power. He kept it as a souvenir though. Let's hope Animo never gets his hands on it again. The next episode isn't critical story-wise but has some notable moments. So speedrun mode. After pranking Gwen, Ben spots a kraken but nobody believes him. Classic boy who cried wolf setup. The only believer is Captain Shaw, who takes the group out on the water to find it. A research group blocks them, also unconvinced. The kraken surfaces. Ben tries a new alien called Ripjaws, but the watch misfires and gives him Accelerate instead. First watch glitch of the series. People get saved but the monster escapes. Ben and Shaw go after it alone. Find an egg, Shaw gets grabbed by the research group. Ben saves him, and they figure out the group runs a cannery and wants those kraken eggs. Ben finally becomes Ripjaws, an anglerfish type alien that swims fast, bites hard, and breathes only underwater. Saves the eggs. Then gets caught by Shaw, who thinks he's a baby kraken. Alright, pretty speedy. Next road has similar energy. Some new aliens, not much else. We open with Ben stopping ATM robbers using Upgrade, who can interface with and control any technology, a truck in this case. I'm genuinely starting to wonder what transforming actually feels like for Ben. Anyway, the group visits his aunt's place. Body snatcher aliens attack the senior community and Ben, bored stiff, wanders off. He becomes Ghost Freak, name says everything, and investigates, spotting a suspicious old man before timing out. A quick chase later, the man is scared away by water, leaving Ben baffled. Ben and Gwen search for him but get jumped by more alien seniors and then find Grandpa Max, who is now also one of them. Good God, look at those teeth. Could really use a brushing. Long story short, the kids find where the body snatchers are holding the real humans, free Grandpa. The aliens reveal their genuinely terrifying true form. Ben and Gwen drive them off using water, and all the seniors are rescued before the aliens fly away in their UFO. Back to the story-heavy episodes. Vilgax recruits 3 bounty hunters to chase Ben 66, a purple fighter, Tetrax, the hoverboard guy, and Crab. He's a crab. They track Ben's last Omnitrix usage but immediately start arguing over who's in charge, so the 3 split up. While the rust bucket is being repaired, Ben and Gwen explore an abandoned western ghost town. Get over yourself, doofus. You don't scare me. Ben, messing with the watch to spook Gwen, instantly signals the bounty hunters to his exact location. Crab gets flattened but knows a few counters to Ben's aliens. 66 attacks the rust bucket once everyone's back on the road, blows out the tires, and puts them back at square one. 66 and Crab both give chase while Tetrax pulls Ben aside, explaining he's there to take him off planet and remove the Omnitrix since it can't be trusted to a child. So apparently Tetrax is somewhat on the right side. Ben disagrees and the two throw down. It's later revealed Tetrax is the same alien species as Diamond Head. The other two, now teamed up, arrive with Grandpa and Gwen, using the hoverboard to ground everyone. Ben becomes grey matter and helps Tetrax take out the villains. Tetrax tells Ben after watching him fight that the Omnitrix is in capable enough hands for now and leaves Ben his hoverboard before heading home. He lied about needing it to escape, by the way. Vilgax is furious, skipping ahead Kevin 11. This introduces one of the most important characters in the entire franchise, Kevin 11. Why does everyone in this universe have a number for a last name? Ben gets the whole family kicked out of a hotel. You can't tell me what to do, you're not my dad. And after blowing up with Grandpa, storms off to an arcade where he meets Kevin, who carries some kind of electrical ability. After Kevin handles some old gang acquaintances, he takes Ben back to his place, a corner inside an abandoned New York subway, explaining he lives alone because his parents couldn't handle having a freak around. The two then break into a warehouse to grab the new Sumo Slammers game early, but the police show up and they have to run. Ben tells Kevin about the Omnitrix and transforms into Stinkfly to fly them both out. The speed guy at the arcade was you, huh? You're the man. Kevin wants to try the Omnitrix himself, but Ben explains it doesn't work that way. So they decide to team up and use their powers however they want. That genuinely cannot end well. Thankfully, Ben's conscience kicks in when Kevin wants to crash a money train into a passenger one to rob it, Ben realizing that kills hundreds of people. The two fight and Kevin absorbs some Omnitrix energy, picking up Heat Blast's powers. Ben stops the trains and hops onto the rust bucket, beginning to patch things up with Grandpa. But before that can happen, Ben goes after Kevin and finds him terrorizing his old gang. The Heat Blast abilities fade, but he gains 4 arms powers from Ben, and they fight until Ben times out. Kevin tries grabbing the Omnitrix and gets blasted away by its energy. Ben apologizes to Grandpa, but trust has to be rebuilt. Meanwhile, Kevin seems to have absorbed whatever energy the Omnitrix released. That is absolutely not going to end well. In the Alliance, Ben's dealing with a violent biker gang, all women as it turns out, until Vilgax's drones crash in trying to take the watch. Ben handles both groups, but not before Grandpa takes a serious hit and ends up in the hospital. Meanwhile, the gang's leader Rojo gets fused with Vilgax's tech and uses her new abilities to attack the police. I was already wondering if transforming is uncomfortable for Ben, but being turned into a cyborg while fully conscious sounds dramatically worse. Vilgax connects with her directly and orders her to find the Omnitrix. She storms the hospital looking for Ben while he and Gwen are in the waiting room. Ben briefly neutralizes her, "Where is it? I couldn't get it," but she draws him back out by attacking the police station. He becomes Upgrade and gets it done properly this time, though not before making first contact with Vilgax through whatever remote technology he's using. He takes Rojo down, she loses the tech, Gwen kicks her in the face. Yeah, Grandpa makes it out of the hospital. Still, the encounter with Vilgax sticks hard with Ben afterwards. Solid development right there. Next up is Lucky Girl. Grandpa takes Ben and Gwen on a museum tour. Don't let Mummy Face get to you. She's probably older than that spell book. Until new villain Hex shows up hunting for the Archimeda book of spells. Ben beats him but completely showboats, irritating Gwen. She's done going unnoticed, pointing out Ben's only a hero because he got lucky enough to find a watch. To cheer her up, Ben gives her his souvenir from the day. Meanwhile, Hex simply floats out of an ambulance. There he goes. He heads straight back to the museum but can't complete his spells. His gem is missing. And yeah, you can guess where it went. Gwen's new gem necklace is making her supernaturally lucky, and she decides to become a hero herself. Lucky girl. She's doing quite a bit of showboating too. Hex lures Ben and Gwen to him, going after the gem, but she just keeps getting luckier. Eventually he grabs it and starts demolishing the city, so they both go after him. They beat Hex. Gwen destroys all the gems including the luck one, and Ben actually admits she did a great job. You did a good job. Not everyone needs an Omnitrix to be a hero, folks. You just need a luck amulet. In the season 1 finale, Vilgax finishes healing and comes to Earth himself. He lures Ben out by attacking a city, and they finally come face to face. Ben slows him down, but Grandpa urges immediate retreat. Wait, how does he even know his name? After Ben charges back in, Vilgax grabs him and instantly snaps him back to human form. That is terrifying. He kidnaps Ben while Gwen and Grandpa slip into a hidden base inside Mount Rushmore, where it's revealed Grandpa was definitely not a normal plumber. I wasn't exactly a normal plumber before I retired. They locate Vilgax and blast their way onto his ship using the rust bucket's hidden upgrades, pulling Ben free from the extraction machine. Though it damages the watch and causes Ben to cycle through aliens every few seconds uncontrollably. Vilgax apparently knows Grandpa, which means they've crossed paths before. Ben and Vilgax stumble to Earth and keep fighting while Grandpa and Gwen escape, but both get caught, forcing Ben to surrender to protect them. Vilgax hauls Ben back onto the ship, except Grandpa had already activated the self-destruct sequence. Ben breaks out, Vilgax is trapped inside, and Ben makes it back to the surface, where he and Grandpa have quite a bit of catching up to do. Great way to close a season. In the season 2 opener, we get a flashback of Max and Vilgax facing off alongside another plumber named Phil. It shows what Max believed was his final encounter with Vilgax, strapping him to a rocket and launching him into his own ship. Max explains the plumbers are a covert organization built to handle extraterrestrial threats, though even he thought the Omnitrix was just a rumor. Later, the group actually runs into Phil while chasing a loose alien. He explains that after Max retired, the plumbers effectively dissolved since Vilgax was gone, so now he's running his own private operation. Another situation unfolds and the three help Phil out, encountering two aliens that look a lot like Wildmoot, possibly the same species. Ben becomes Wildmoot right in front of Phil to try communicating with them, blowing the Omnitrix secret. Phil pulls out a sonic whistle he conveniently had on hand to stop them, but they break free and only Grandpa gets everyone out safely. You know, Ben, you'd make a great plumber. Suspicious about that whistle, Grandpa checks the plumber's secret base and finds the null void projector missing, now in Phil's hands. He's been releasing aliens from the null void, catching them and getting paid. He releases another to take out Max, but Ben saves him just in time and is now firmly against Phil. They beat the alien and chase Phil while Gwen hides in his car and fights him for the projector during the chase. Phil gets sent into the null void and the plumbing operation goes back into semi-retirement. Next episode, Ben unlocks a brand new alien, Cannonball, right as a meteor crashes down overhead. Cannonball rolls at extraordinary speeds. The meteor turns out to be a massive alien tick. Gross. The tick has alien worshippers trailing it. Also, the tick drains all nutrients from planets and destroys them completely. So yeah, pretty terrible situation overall. Ben uses every alien to try destroying it, but nothing lands. He skips Cannonball, figuring the alien is completely useless. The worshippers trap the three to prevent more damage to their precious parasite. No way I am not scrubbing that thing's feet. Eventually, Ben tries Cannonball as a last resort, rolling through the tick's internal organs and causing it to explode from the inside. So Cannonball is absolutely not useless after all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Next episode, it looks like Ben has gone rogue and is tearing through the city. A special alien containment team shows up to neutralize him, but he escapes. Back at the rust bucket, the real Ben has just been sitting there playing video games this whole time. Ben figures someone is impersonating him, spots a fake forearms on top of a building and moves to stop it. They investigate and figure out that a heat blast sighting isn't actually doing anything evil, so the real Ben goes hero to stop the imposter. Turns out it's Kevin, who can now shift into any of Ben's aliens at will. Kevin can barely hold human form anymore and announces his new goal is to frame Ben for a massive crime wave before flying off. He's always wandering away. We might need a leash. Kevin starts wrecking the Golden Gate Bridge as Diamond Head, takes out the containment team's leader and confronts Ben. The two fight until Kevin briefly reverts to human before shifting into a giant collage of every alien at once. Nobody's winning a beauty contest with that. Kevin gets blasted by the containment team and the leader finally recognizes Ben as one of the good guys. All settled until Kevin inevitably shows back up. That comeback comes fast, just 2 episodes later in Grudge Match. He's back, ladies and gents. Have you looked in a mirror lately? It's payback time. He and Ben brawl in a windmill field until both get abducted abducted by aliens. They land in a gladiator arena, take out robots, and get moved to a room with other captured aliens who explain they're all being forced to fight for someone's entertainment. The ship's champion Technog shows up to eat his dinner. Major disrespect, he picks a fight with Ben. The ship's owner Slicks Vigma chains Ben and Kevin together. If one dies, the other dies too. Slowly the two figure out how to work together, discovering Kevin can layer his partial alien powers to compensate for reduced strength, which they use to take down Technog. Ben spares him and Technog pledges loyalty. The three work with the other captives to escape. Ben becomes Upgrade to take over Slicks and fly everyone home. Kevin figures with no witnesses he can finally finish Ben, until Technog steps in, sends Ben home, and handles Kevin himself. Biggest takeaway: aliens come up with the strangest names. Campfire is mainly worth noting for the debut of Wildvine, a plant-based alien who can extend his limbs, use thorns, and throw explosive seed bombs. Wish there were more to say, but cool alien. Ghost Freaked Out completely reframes how we understand the Omnitrix. It opens with Ben having a nightmare where Ghost Freak pressures him to be released. Later, while Gwen tours a prep school, mutant clowns, the Clown Freaks, start robbing the place. Ben goes hero, but the watch gives him Ghost Freak without his input. He viciously beats the clowns. When Gwen asks what he's doing, the response is, "Ben's not here." The clowns flee and Ghost Freak floats after them. When the Omnitrix starts timing out, he says, "I'm not going back." Ben snaps back and finds himself face to face with Ghost Freak. How did this happen? Apparently the DNA sample for Ghost Freak contains enough material for a full living organism, meaning he's been essentially imprisoned inside the watch. Ghost Freak tears into his true form, tells Ben he needs the Omnitrix to become whole, and the only path is possessing Ben. But sunlight hits him before he can and he retreats. He finds a loophole by taking over a tuba player's body. Of all people, he recruits the Clown Freaks through fear tactics and abducts a student to draw Ben out. He figures he can't merge with Ben while Ben's in alien form, but knows a timeout is coming. Grandpa has a trick prepared, a beam as bright as direct sunlight, but Ghost Freak keeps body hopping to dodge it and eventually jumps into Gwen, threatening to make her leap off a building unless Ben surrenders. "Drop the weapon and I'll merge with you and take over the world." Ben surrenders but shifts into grey matter right before the possession, staying in the fight until he times out at the worst possible moment. Ben thinks fast, yanks a curtain open, and sunlight incinerates Ghost Freak instantly. So no more using Ghost Freak then. "Oh, and the clowns are captured too. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me." Thanks, Ben. The next episode has almost zero story implications, so here are just the highlights. While tampering with the Omnitrix trying to unlock new aliens, Ben partially breaks it, leaving the nearby ground slightly irradiated. They're good as new. Dr. Animo returns with his bullfrog. Ben goes hero but transforms into a bizarre fusion of Stinkfly and forearms. Animo grabs the piece of the Omnitrix Ben dropped and takes off. Ben's subsequent transformations don't work cleanly. He eventually tracks Animo down, who has used the Omnitrix piece to manufacture mutants and blasts Grandpa, turning him into something that honestly gave me nightmares as a kid. That is genuinely terrifying. Ben becomes Ripjaws and Heat Blast, discovers he's immune to the mutation ray and stops Animo. Gwen reverses the Omnitrix piece and restores Grandpa. Sleep schedule officially safe. No more nightmares. In the season 2 finale, Kevin, apparently a space pirate now, finds Vilgax drifting through space and proposes a team up over their shared hatred for Ben Tennyson. Enormous yikes. Back on Earth, Ben messes with the watch again and unlocks master control of the Omnitrix, switching between aliens at any time, zero cooldown. Way overpowered. Ben's enjoying unlimited power until Vilgax and Kevin trace the watch's energy signature and find him, immediately snapping him back to human. Ben saves Grandpa and Gwen and goes after both villains, but after Grandpa fires the null void projector at them, Ben gets dragged in too. So this is what the null void looks like. Grandpa sends Gwen in to rescue him and she adapts quickly before finding her cousin. They locate each other but Kevin captures Gwen and Ben agrees to hand over the Omnitrix for her safety. They pull it off but Kevin immediately tries running with it himself, causing Vilgax to go after him instead. Ben and Gwen snatch it back but get cornered by both villains trying to escape, so Gwen throws it, or appears to. She actually threw a grenade and left Kevin and Vilgax stuck together while she and Ben slipped out. Sharp thinking. But the whole ordeal also reset Ben's master control. Back to wrong aliens and untimely timeouts. Fantastic. Season 3. It's Grandpa's birthday and Ben and Gwen completely forgot a cake. That would be the least of their problems. A portal tears open and Gwen gets pulled through by a flying girl, causing Ben to chase right after. They land 20 years in the future, staring up at a statue of Ben 10,000, hero of heroes, before running straight into one of Ben's old foes, a rhino hybrid built by Dr. Animo. Ben 10,000 arrives and shuts it down instantly but is cold toward everyone, including future Gwen, who was the one who abducted young Gwen, and she can use magic now, which is incredible. She needs young Ben's help dealing with Animo and knew the only way to get him him to the future was by taking Gwen. Kind of sweet, I suppose. Still kidnapping though. Future Grandpa arrives in the future Rust Bucket and takes Ben to Animo's base, where Animo has apparently evolved himself into a gorilla hybrid. Ben 10 uses aliens we haven't seen yet and has complete master control, using it to take down Animo entirely by himself while young Ben, who he tied up, watches from the sidelines. Animo escapes after Ben 10,000 leaves though and begins reassembling a shattered Vilgax. First Kevin, now Animo. Ben follows an alert and finds Animo going for the null void projector with the restored Vilgax emerging from the shadows. Young Ben shows up and helps future Ben take on Vilgax while the Gwens and future Grandpa deal with Animo. Also, Grandpa has a robot arm now. Given the show came out in 2006, that gives us about 3 years to make laser guns and robo arms real, so expectations were set. Ben 10, Dusan decides to bring back some childishness thanks to young Ben and goes human to take down Vilgax while young Ben sticks with aliens. Probably the right call for a 10-year-old. He uses the hoverboard to lead Vilgax to a pool and then unlocks a new alien to freeze him inside it, which young Ben names Arctic-Guana. Great name. The Gwens and Grandpa stop Animo. Everyone celebrates future Grandpa's birthday together, with future Gwen quietly revealing she brought young Ben to the future to loosen up Ben 10,000, and it completely worked. 10,000 gives young Ben a cake. They head home and properly celebrate Grandpa's birthday. So much happened. My brain is genuinely spinning. Next is a change of face. Villain Charmcaster shows up and attempts a body swap spell to take Ben's body and get the Omnitrix. Unfortunately, Gwen accidentally ends up in Ben's body instead, so Charmcaster is in Gwen's body and Gwen is in Ben's. Gwen ends up in jail while Charmcaster is suddenly much closer to the Omnitrix than expected. Charmcaster tries winning Ben over while pretending to be Gwen, but he can tell something's off. She swings from unusually sweet to suddenly violent, then offers to cook an apology meal. Yeah, Gwen definitely doesn't cook. Gwen escapes prison. When the two meet, Charmcaster uses what she cooked for another swap spell, gets her own body back but accidentally swaps Ben and Gwen again. Gwen can't crack the Omnitrix and everyone gets captured. Through teamwork, Gwen escapes and transforms into Cannonball. Charmcaster starts her spell again but Ben kicks her out and everyone snaps back to normal. Ben beats her and Gwen walks away with Charmcaster's spellbook. In Ben Wolf, Grandpa takes Ben and Gwen to visit old Plumber friend Wes, part of a Navajo Native American tribe. Ben is immediately interested in Wes's daughter Kai, but before he can even talk to her, purple lightning strikes the area and a massive wolf-like creature appears. It bolts before anyone can stop it and a flood breaks out, but Ben saves Kai without even going hero. Also, the wolf stole a satellite, which is apparently just something wolves do. They go to track it down. Ben becomes Wildvine but times out at the worst moment, and the wolf slashes Ben's Omnitrix before the others run it off. While trying to impress Kai, Ben starts noticing strange things happening to himself. Stranger than usual. He's slowly turning into a werewolf. Apparently the only way to revert him is to stop the wolf, requiring a special pendant dipped in specific spiritual cactus juice. While the girls find the cactus, the guys track the wolf, and by the time they find it, Ben is already full wolf. They press the pendant to the wolf's chest but nothing happens and it bolts again. The group figures out this isn't a Navajo werewolf, it's an alien one. Explains why the pendant failed and why Ben is changing. The wolf's DNA registered in the Omnitrix with that slash. New alien in the arsenal, complete with a sonic howl. During a cave fight, both Ben and the wolf get buried under rocks, but Ben barely escapes. Kai says she's not interested unless Ben stays a wolf. Unsettling. And the satellite equipment the wolf stole has been assembled into something ominous. No idea what it does yet. In Under Wraps, there's a mummy situation and that purple lightning is back. Ben and Gwen hear about it during farm work and investigate late that night, finding bizarre purple cows instead. They take the cows down and then find the mummy digging for a purple rock. He nearly crushes Ben and vanishes with the rock. Aren't you glad you went to bed early? Also, for the record, Ben has been using the Omnitrix to blast through the farm chores, which defeats the entire reason Grandpa brought them there, to appreciate hard work. But when you've got an alien watch, nothing is hard at all. Once they finish, the kids tell Grandpa about the mummy. Tests reveal the cows are loaded with corrodium, a wildly unstable energy source from space. If the mummy gets enough of it, he could turn everything into something like those cows. I like the purple color but not that much. They go search for more corrodium to intercept it, but at an ice cream factory, Ben accidentally does the mummy's work for him by digging out a shard himself, and then the mummy arrives. He grabs the corrodium and demonstrates what it does to someone exposed, mutating a worker into a purple monster. The mummy captures Ben and tears his protective suit, but the mummy's DNA accidentally registers in the Omnitrix. Ben goes alien to keep his vulnerable human form from mutating. He tries tries becoming the mummy but gets upgrade instead and freezes the guy with liquid nitrogen. The mutated worker and cows turn out to be fine since they weren't exposed long enough. Relief: the return fittingly starts with the return of the space wolf, who heads to the ice cream factory to free the mummy, right as the security guard shows up and watches them both vanish. Quite a team up. Ben, Grandpa and Gwen hear about a storm that delayed a NASA shuttle launch, normal except for the purple lightning. Meanwhile at NASA, Dr. Victor is introducing upgraded thrusters for the shuttle, but the launch got scrubbed and he is not happy. Grandpa contacts an old friend at the facility. Does this guy look familiar? That's an astronaut in the program. But Dr. Victor spots them and demands they leave, especially after noticing Ben's Omnitrix. They go off on their own anyway. Victor takes over shuttle operations solo with some help from the mummy and wolf. These three have the strangest friend group. Grandpa and Gwen find Dr. Victor on security cameras, likely causing the purple lightning. Ben runs into the werewolf and becomes the mummy for the first time to try taking him down, but the wolf escapes again. Slipperiest villain ever. Nobody catches him. They track the mummy down. Victor shows up and transforms into what is essentially Frankenstein's monster. He gets uglier and meaner. Let's leave it at that. Gwen shields the gang with a spell, but trouble falls anyway, giving the villains time to get back to their shuttle. After getting everyone clear, Ben finds the monster's hideout, watches Victor send the wolf back to New Mexico and to the satellite equipment, tries to stop Victor but gets knocked around while Victor launches the shuttle, with Gwen and Grandpa still inside trying to shut it down. That is not good. Victor also set up one more experiment, the resurrection of Ghost Freak, the true head of this entire plan. That friend group just got 10 times worse. Oh, and Grandpa and Gwen are in space with the mummy now. Possibly the worst situation Ben has ever been in. In the next episode, Ben is running for his life trying to keep Ghost Freak away from the Omnitrix while Grandpa and Gwen attempt to turn the rocket around. Ben figures out Ghost Freak's plan, a corrodium beam from space paired with desert satellite equipment casting a massive radiation shadow across Earth, turning everyone permanently purple and giving Ghost Freak full power at all times. Yikes. Ben times out after damaging some machinery and Grandpa and Gwen get knocked into open space. Stupid watch. Victor finds Ben but accidentally touches the Omnitrix, meaning Ben can now become whatever Victor has become too. He uses a light beam on Ghost Freak, smashes Victor into the rocket and launches himself up to help Grandpa and Gwen. The two make it into the satellite and stop the mummy right before he fires the beam, as Ben arrives and sends the mummy into space. Ghost Freak snuck up to the satellite too though, turns the beam back on and accidentally succeeds in casting darkness over Earth. Ben transforms into the Frankenstein-style alien to take down Ghost Freak while the mummy, not quite done, gets shot into space yet again by Gwen. Grandpa also deals with Victor, floating around in space, while Ben gets ganged up on by both the mummy and Ghost Freak. Nobody wants to just give up here, do they? Grandpa crashes the rocket into the satellite, saving the Earth and destroying the equipment along with the wolf's contraption. Victor and the mummy accidentally get pulled through what appears to be a null void portal. Well, so much for them. Gwen and Ben float back down to Earth. Grandpa shows up and they all take out Ghost Freak together before tumbling back down. Ghost Freak gets added back to the Omnitrix and they end up stranded in Egypt. Well, that's what crashing from space does to you. A new alien girl shows up asking about the Omnitrix, and after a brief fight, Grandpa steps in, and apparently the two know each other. Her name is Xylene and she was the one who originally sent the Omnitrix to Earth. Remember that exploding ship in episode 1? That was hers. She crashed on Earth and went into hibernation until now. Hearing Vilgax is in the null void, she feels safe enough to head back home. Also, she and Grandpa are very clearly close. It's revealed Xylene was sent on a mission years ago to secure a new DNA weapon, the Omnitrix, and offered to take Max with her back then, but he had to stay on Earth. Yes, they were a couple at one point. I don't quite know what to think about that, but good for them. If this keeps up, I'm going to hurl. Back in the present, Xylene asks Max to go with her to space and he genuinely considers it. Then a drone of Vilgax's shows up and attacks Ben and Gwen. The rust bucket is destroyed, but the group takes out the robot, or so they think. They start piecing the rust bucket back together when Xylene and Ben get into an argument, and it's revealed Max was actually supposed to be the one who got the Omnitrix, not Ben. Ben storms off. The robot returns, kidnaps Max, and so Ben, Gwen, and Xylene form an uneasy truce and go after him. To help take the robot down for good, Xylene helps Ben unlock a new alien, Upchuck, a little green guy who can eat anything and spit it back out as an explosion. Ben eats the robot, rescues Grandpa, and all is well, with Grandpa deciding to stay on Earth instead of leaving with Xylene, though he does give her a parting kiss. I'm just going to say good for them and move forward. Alright folks, grab your popcorn. It's movie time, that's right. Secret of the Omnitrix. Animo has built a DNA nuke that will mutate the entire world, and he's also captured Grandpa and Gwen. That's a recipe for disaster right there. Ben goes heat blast and tries to melt the bomb, which mostly works, but sends out a DNA wave that messes with his watch. Ben tries going stinkfly to catch Animo, but keeps swapping randomly and becomes grey matter instead. He still manages to catch him though. That night, Tetrax returns and tells Ben he received a signal from the Omnitrix indicating it's about to self-destruct and destroy its host. That's not good. They've got to reach the Omnitrix's creator Azimuth and have him shut off the self-destruct within 4 days or it's over. Oh, and they don't know where he lives, but they can at least track his DNA signature through the watch. Ben also has to leave Grandpa and Gwen behind. Apparently a lot of people out there aren't fans of Grandpa. Tetrax takes Ben on board and introduces his pilot, Gluto, while elsewhere Vilgax has escaped the null void and wants payback. This keeps getting worse. They find out Azimuth is on a prison planet, but then an intruder gets on board. Oh no, it's Vilgax. Wait, no, it's Gwen. She figured Ben would need the help. That would be fine and all, except she immediately almost kills both of them by opening a door into open space. Tetrax saves them at the last second. Jeez. Also, apparently the only way to save Ben is to remove the Omnitrix, meaning no more superhero work after that. Oh, and every transformation speeds up the self-destruct countdown too. Can this day get any worse for Ben? Oh, most species love humans, considered quite the delicacy. Well, yes it can. When the three reach the prison planet, Ben has to wear an embarrassing disguise to move around surrounded by space criminals. Tetrax heads off on his own but gets attacked by 6-6, and Ben becomes upchuck to stop whoever he thinks is Vilgax, but it turns out to be a girl of the same alien race as his Vilgax. Never jump to conclusions, folks. The girl says she helped build the Omnitrix too, so Ben figures she must be Azimuth. The gang escapes the prison planet with 6-6 close behind, but that wasn't Azimuth they rescued. It was Azimuth's assistant Myax. She was fed up with how self-absorbed he was, so she erased his DNA signature from the watch and replaced it with her own. She knows where Azimuth is though, and she also knows the truth about the Omnitrix's self-destruct sequence. If that thing blows up, it isn't just destroying Ben, it's destroying the entire universe. Why would you even build a self-destruct like that into the watch? She also put a small inhibitor on the watch to stop it from sending out weird pulses. Remember that. Vilgax picks up 6-6, who briefs him on Myax, and the two immediately get on the same page after a tussle, of course. After Ben guides the ship to the location using the Omnitrix, Vilgax shows up and boards Tetrax's ship. Tetrax and Myax go outside to sever Vilgax's ship from their own, and Gluto finally. The battle we've been waiting for. And it's over. Vilgax won. Gwen finds what's left of him but gets cornered by one of Vilgax's henchmen, so Gluto sacrifices himself to save her. He's the real hero here. To avenge our favorite blob of goo, 6-6 gets shot into space, and so does Vilgax. They got exactly what they deserved. The group reaches Azimuth's lair and gets attacked by wild vines, with Ben fighting to save Gwen, who gets kidnapped. As hard as he tries, Ben can't get through the hatch to find her, so he has to focus on Azimuth. Tetrax tries to console Ben by explaining he's not the only one who's lost someone, revealing he once worked for Vilgax and is partially responsible for destroying his entire home planet. How does that guy sleep at night? His goal in life now is making sure Vilgax never gets another world-ending weapon, which is exactly why he's here. They find the creator and speak to him via hologram, but he refuses to shut down the countdown, saying it's the consequence for misusing his creation. Okay, this guy is a massive jerk. Ben smashes through the doors and comes face to face with the creator, who turns out to be a grey matter in a giant mechanical suit. Well, whenever Ben went grey matter, he always got smarter. That explains some things. Azimuth explains the device was never supposed to be a weapon. He built it simply to understand all the beings of the universe. But thanks to Vilgax and Ben, it's become one. The lair starts caving in, so everyone flees outside, only to be greeted by Vilgax and his entire army. Ben starts fighting with a laser gun, but Gluto saves him. Yes, he's alive, and Gwen's alive too. Yeah, I'm really happy about Gluto. Ben takes off the inhibitor and blasts everyone. I'm still not sure the universe is worth saving. Azimuth steps in after to deactivate the Omnitrix, then brings it back fully repaired and with a new alien, way big, who is absolutely enormous. Ben takes out Vilgax's entire army with it and then tosses Vilgax himself into the cosmos. That's settled. Wait, so Azimuth could have fixed it the whole time. I guess he just wanted to teach a lesson about misusing it. Kind of a jerk move, but also kind of smart. Azimuth and Myax fly off to find a more comfortable home, and Gluto takes everyone else back to Earth. Back to business. And speaking of back to business, it's time for season 4. The episode Perfect Day starts with a bus full of cheerleaders breaking down right in front of Ben, followed by a spaceship landing with 6-6 Omnitrix and a new villain Vulcanus hopping out. Ben beats both of them but notices Gwen actually seemed worried about him after he took a hit. "You're good to go." Yeah, you're awesome." He also notices Kai was on the bus, the girl from the werewolf episode. After the fight, Grandpa takes the kids to a pizza place and lets Ben keep a new sumo slammers game that just happens to fall out of a truck, which is oddly generous of him. Even odder is that when Ben mentions the Omnitrix has been acting up, Grandpa says it's probably nothing and to ignore it. This day feels too good. It gets even stranger when another set of Grandpa and Gwen appear and try to grab Ben, causing the original pair to grab them and fight. A more familiar feeling Grandpa and Gwen get Ben onto the rust bucket and start explaining that the Forever Knights captured him and set up clones. But before they can get further, they get T-boned by a jeep. Turns out it's the head of the special alien containment team, who claims Grandpa and Gwen are actually shapeshifters sent by Vilgax. Vilgax then shows up and tries to send Ben to the null void, but Ben stops him first, with the SAC leader telling Ben to send the shapeshifters in next. Gwen tells Ben it's a little suspicious that Vilgax tried to send him to the null void before grabbing the Omnitrix, and so Ben figures it all out, sending the SACTIC member into the void instead. The leader turns out to be Enoch, head of the Forever Knights, who built Ben a perfect dream world to distract him while they remove the Omnitrix. Now they're making it a nightmare. They show up at school and Gwen explains she and Grandpa snuck into Ben's head and now they all need to escape before the Omnitrix is removed or they're finished. They find a glitched exit but get confronted by a wall of Ben's enemies. Luckily this is all inside Ben's head, so he can do whatever he wants. He makes himself and Grandpa superheroes and Gwen a rat. So not funny Ben, that's Ben for you. Ben escapes and takes down Enoch in the real world, trapping him in his own dream machine. As the episode ends, the real head of the Forever Knights arrives after Ben leaves and says he'll have to deal with Ben himself, kind of like that Thanos post-credit scene in Age of Ultron. In Divided We Stand, while fighting a mutant seagull, Ben becomes a new alien, Ditto, who can duplicate himself. The seagull gets chased off and we see just how many Dittos Ben can make. Nobody messes with that. Then Dr. Animo shows up and steals one to extract the DNA. And for the record, Ben can't revert to human without all his Dittos being together. The lost Ditto breaks free from Animo's containment, causing all of them to start floating toward each other. Ben reverts to human form and thankfully gets rescued by Grandpa and Gwen after the seagull stuns him. They're making me nuts. Animo shows up and with the DNA he extracted, he can now create monsters based on any of Ben's aliens, choosing Stinkfly and Ditto. But here's the thing about Ditto, if one feels pain, they all do. So destroying just one of the Stinkflies destroys them all. Animo is defeated, Grandpa deletes Animo's alien DNA files and Ben's duplicated out for a while. To close off season 4, we've got a two-parter, Ben 10 versus the negative 10. Grandpa is doing a favor for an old plumber buddy by driving his kid Cooper home from summer camp. Meanwhile, the clown freaks are attempting to rob Fort Knox alongside Sublimino, a villain with hypnotic powers. That's really all you need to know about him. Ben, Grandpa, Gwen and Cooper arrive on the scene but realize no gold was actually stolen and find a hole leading to a secret abandoned plumber base. Looks like the villains stole something, we just don't know what yet. The villains return to their base and present whatever they took to the head of the Forever Knights. They show up to another plumber base and find Clancy, a guy who controls bugs using wasps to clear people out of a building. That's all you need, and get past him to find Rojo and Charmcaster breaking into the vault. Dr. Animo finds Ben's group though, so a big brawl breaks out. The villains grab a key and escape, and according to Animo, they've now got what they need to rule the world. How come I'm stuck with Mr. Maggot? Grandpa figures out the villains stole a key to a highly dangerous energy source called sub-energy, given to the plumbers by an alien years ago. Whoever knew about it had to have had access to top secret plumber intel, and while we can probably guess it was the leader of the Forever Knights, he shows up at Mount Rushmore as the episode ends to confirm it. The next episode picks up directly after with a massive brawl between Ben and the negative 10. Cooper miraculously helps Grandpa and Gwen sneak into part of the base while Ben deals with the others outside. With a little help, Ben sneaks in too. Grandpa figures out the Forever King is actually a former plumber named Driscoll, caught stealing weapons from the agency for personal gain and kicked out. But who knows Mount Rushmore incredibly well, not good for the Tennysons. They do have a little extra help though, Cooper, who apparently understands and controls technology on a kind of psychic level. The villains break in but get slowed down, locked away from the sub-energy. But Cooper turns on them and the gang realizes Sublimino must have gotten to him earlier. They incapacitate him before the bad guys burst back in. Ben becomes Eye Guy, another new alien, does exactly what you'd think, and the fight is on. The numbers are too much for Ben's team and the Forever King gets his hands on the sub-energy. He escapes and Ben follows, thanks to the other villains turning on each other because of their own egos, then getting trapped for the same reasons. Ben takes on the Forever King as Upchuck and now that hits the spot, using the sub-energy against him and blasting the king into parts unknown. All that's left is his gear, and Mount Rushmore is pretty badly damaged now. So much for sightseeing. And that is the original series of Ben 10. One kid learning what it really means to wear that watch. But here's the thing about growing up, it doesn't stop. And neither does Hero Time, because 5 years later, Ben Tennyson isn't 10 anymore, he's 15. The Omnitrix looks different. He's tried to put it behind him, tried to be normal. But when Grandpa Max goes missing and a new alien threat rises from the shadows, Ben finds out pretty quick that you don't just retire from saving the world. The watch is back. The team is complicated, and an old enemy becomes something he never expected, an ally. So wipe the rust off that Omnitrix, because we're jumping straight into the next chapter. This is Ben 10 Alien Force. 5 years have passed since Ben last activated the Omnitrix, but when a fresh alien threat targets Earth, Episode 1, Ben 10 returns. Part 1 opens with Ben at school in the middle of a soccer game which his team wins. After the match, medal in hand and riding high, Ben makes his way over to his grandpa's van. But something immediately feels wrong. Max is nowhere to be seen and the whole place has been completely ransacked. As Ben tries to piece together what happened, he stumbles upon a hologram with a recorded message from his grandpa, essentially saying that Max is in trouble, that he's out investigating new alien activity and has the Omnitrix with him. This only deepens Ben's confusion since he's the one currently wearing the Omnitrix. Not knowing what to do, Ben tracks down Gwen, who by this point has become a serious martial arts expert. Together they run into Magister Labrid, an old alien associate of Max, who confirms that Max went missing during a mission. "You're the legendary Ben Tennyson." "Guess so." Knowing they have to find Grandpa Max, Ben decides to suit up again and follows Labrid to their only lead in Max's investigation, and eliminate the Warden for good, involving alien laser weapons organized by none other than Kevin Levin. That's right, his old rival. As Ben gives chase, still getting used to the Omnitrix's new upgrades, Gwen and Labrid square off against the Forever Knights and the DNAlien aliens, both of whom are tied to the trade and working against them. In the heat of the chaos, Ben transforms into Swarmfire for the very first time, an incredible plant fire hybrid alien capable of controlling flames and regenerating damage. Ben captures Kevin, but the Forever Knights and DNAliens manage to slip away. With answers on the line, he pushes Kevin to talk. Kevin holds out at first, but when Gwen steps in, something shifts. He agrees to cooperate, leading the group straight to the Forever Knights base. Moving into episode 2, we're inside the Forever Knights stronghold. Ben and the team come face to face not only with the Knights but also with the dragon. Ben wastes no time, activating the Omnitrix and shifting into Echo, a transformation built around ultrasonic waves and self-duplication. Small guys, massive sound. Basically, you could warn somebody when you're going to do that. Meanwhile, Gwen works with her magic. Kevin taps into his absorption powers and Labrid leans on his alien gadgets. Though the squad succeeds in taking down the Knights and the dragon, Labrid sustains critical injuries. Before passing away, he delivers one last directive to the trio: finish what was started and trace the alien weapons back to their origin, because this is just the beginning of something much larger, a direct threat to Earth, and the key to locating Grandpa Max. Following Labrid's death, Kevin officially joins the team. Using Gwen's magic, they track the weapons to their source. The trio arrives at a mine shaft where Kevin neutralizes the entrance guard, who turns out to be a DNAlien disguised behind a holographic mask. Inside, they discover a massive ship housing hundreds of DNAliens. To blend in, Ben borrows the mask and morphs into one of them. "How do I look?" "About the same, taller." They manage to board, but Gwen quickly realizes Max isn't anywhere on the ship. Still, the trio presses forward and moves to take out the weapons room. As expected, they're eventually spotted by the DNAliens, so Ben shifts into Humongosaur, a massive, powerhouse, dinosaur-like transformation that lives up to its name with sheer brute strength. But right as they seem to get the upper hand, the DNAlien commander enters the fight and turns the tide. The commander is simply too powerful, and his plan is to level the nearby town to eliminate any witnesses. Just before he can carry it out, Ben, by sheer luck and quick thinking, destroys the supply ship in time, sparing the entire town. From this point on, Kevin commits to helping Ben and Gwen search for Max and dig deeper into the case their grandfather was investigating. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the DNAlien Supreme learns that everything has gone sideways and that Ben is back with the Omnitrix. Episode 3. Everybody talks about the weather. During a late night drive, Ben, Gwen and Kevin notice Kevin's Plumber badge giving off a strange signal, which they quickly determine is some kind of message they believe is coming from Grandpa Max. Plumber badges aren't something you hand to the guy who repairs your pipes. They're the official badges of an intergalactic law enforcement organization called the Plumbers, and no, they won't come fix your leaky faucet. Without hesitating, the trio follows the signal, convinced it's a GPS tracker embedded in Plumber plumber badges. But instead of finding Max, they come across Alan. A fight breaks out and during it we get to see Ben's newest transformation, Jet Ray. This alien looks like a manta ray and fires neuroshock blast that can seriously disrupt the nervous system. Impressive. Ben and Alan barely dodge the police, and Alan reveals that he's half human, half alien, which is how he's able to transform into Heat Blast. Alan shares that his father, also a plumber, gave him the badge. After hearing his story, Kevin hints that Gwen may also carry alien DNA, which is actually common among humans and would make her magical abilities make a lot more sense. But Gwen insists her powers come from magical books and talismans, not alien heritage. That's a $400 speeding ticket. I know. Later, the group discovers a weather machine constructed by the DNAliens. After driving them off, they realize these machines have been placed all over the region since DNAliens thrive in cold climates. Ben extends an invitation for Alan to join the team, but he decides to remain behind and help local law enforcement deal with any future threats. He does assure Ben though that he's just one call away if they ever need him. Now let's look at episode 4, Kevin's big score, which has some key details worth noting. In brief, Kevin secretly repairs Grandpa Max's van, then takes off with it, planning to sell it to one of his contacts to fund the purchase of a hologram. When that deal goes sideways, Kevin goes directly to Vulcanus, a former enemy, to negotiate. That falls apart too, and Vulcanus ends up taking him captive. Fortunately, Ben and Gwen show up just in time to pull him out. Pause. This is the moment Ben transforms into Big Chill for the very first time. Big Chill is a humanoid, moth-like alien who can turn partially invisible, take flight and freeze just about anything around him. He's literally the coolest character. He's a really chill guy. Despite feeling betrayed initially, Ben and Gwen choose to forgive Kevin, because when all is said and done, Kevin did everything to help them. The hologram he was after turned out to be another recorded message from Grandpa Max. In this one, Max instructs Ben to build a team with other plumber kids, because he's going to need all the backup he can get. In episode 5, All That Glitters, Ben, Gwen and Kevin encounter yet another plumber kid, Mike Morningstar, a killer name. He steps in to lend a hand as the trio scrambles to assist victims of a car crash. Blown away by his heroism and his detailed knowledge of the plumbers, Ben doesn't hesitate to offer him a spot on the team. Kevin, on the other hand, wants nothing to do with it. He doesn't trust Mike and pushes for more time to vet him. Ben disagrees, assuming Kevin's just jealous since Gwen clearly has eyes for Mike and the feeling appears mutual. Beyond the love triangle drama, there are also signs of a serious energy crisis at the local power plant. When the gang investigates, they find a creepy zombified girl draining energy directly from the plant. A battle erupts as more zombified high schoolers ambush the group, and during the fight we get to see one of Ben's brand new transformations, Chromastone. This crystalline alien is the definition of prismatic power, capable of absorbing incoming energy and redirecting it back at enemies as brilliant rainbow-colored blasts. Chromastone, Kevin, Gwen and Morningstar manage to overpower the zombie energy thieves, and Mike even pulls off a dramatic save of Gwen in the process. Once the battle wraps up, the love triangle heats back up when Mike invites Gwen to dinner. Kevin doesn't hesitate to tell them there's just something about that guy Morningstar that doesn't sit right with him. Ben thinks Kevin is being ridiculous and jealous and tries to talk him down, but ultimately ends up going along. When they reach the dinner spot, Ben and Kevin realize pretty fast that Mike is not who he's been pretending to be. Turns out he's been draining the life energy from girls all over town to supercharge himself, turning them into his personal zombie army. Why use your powers to help people when you can use them to get whatever you want? And Gwen is his latest target. That's genuinely dark. Ben and Kevin step in to take Mike down, with Ben even busting out Jet Ray, but their efforts fall short. He's grown too powerful. Then somehow Gwen breaks free on her own, pulling back her energy and dismantling him. She strips Mike completely dry and simultaneously restores the other girls to normal. All's well that ends well, I suppose. Keep Morningstar in the back of your mind though. Something tells me this isn't the last we'll see of him. In episode 6, Max out, things get intense fast. Gwen's brother Ken, who has absolutely no clue about the plumbers or anything alien related, suddenly goes missing. So naturally Ben, Gwen and Kevin launch a search. They eventually locate him at a DNAlien base just in time to stop him from completing a full transformation into one of them. Ken tells the trio that Grandpa Max is also somewhere in the base, so now they need to find him too. When they finally reach him, Max explains that the DNAliens have been engineering a massive army by producing parasites that convert humans into DNAliens, and they need to shut the whole operation down immediately. While the team focuses on destroying the parasites, Max takes on the DNAlien commander solo, but the commander is on a completely different level. Max is getting overwhelmed, so Ben and the others rush back to help, but he stops them, insisting they stay on mission and protect Earth. You'll have to take it from here. I know you can do it. I believe in you. Then in one of the most shocking moments in the series, he triggers a blast, taking out everything in the vicinity, himself included. included. With Max gone, Ben is completely shattered. But the group understands they must push forward, defend Earth and honor the commitment they made to both him and Labrid. Let's briefly cover episode 7, Peer Pressure, to bring the mood back down a notch. In short, Ben finally works up the nerve to ask Julie, his high school crush, out on a date and she says yes. At the pier, everything is actually going pretty smoothly until an alien named Ship, who can fuse itself with any technology, starts chasing Ben down. Now he's stuck trying to fight Ship while desperately keeping his alien powers hidden from Julie. Oh, and first time transformation alert. Brainstorm, a crab-like alien with extraordinary intelligence. He's clearly got the brain power to handle it. It's a smart name too. Things take a turn for the worse when Ship abducts Julie, forcing Ben into full hero mode while also blowing his cover. But somehow she finds the whole thing more amusing than alarming. Turns out Ship wasn't chasing Ben to attack him at all. It was trying to get his attention. Ship was guiding Ben toward its crashed spaceship in the forest, where the pilots were in desperate need of a plumber's assistance to get it repaired. In the end, Ben and Julie help the aliens out, and they depart to track down the nearest plumber because your sink was clogged. While the date definitely didn't unfold as planned, it's safe to say Julie is absolutely not forgetting this one anytime soon. Episode 8, What Are Little Girls Made Of? Ben, Gwen, and Kevin spot a mysterious woman leaving flowers at Grandpa Max's favorite location. Curious, they follow her and discover that she's Verdona, their grandmother, who as it turns out is actually an alien from a species called the Anodites. He was my grandpa too. Really, Gwen quickly comes to understand that the magic she always thought she channeled through books and talismans was actually her alien genetics at work all along. Verdona is absolutely thrilled to discover that one of her grandchildren inherited her abilities and immediately invites Gwen back to her home planet for proper training. Gwen is torn, wanting to deepen her understanding of her powers but unwilling to leave Ben and Kevin behind. After weighing her options, she declines. This sends Verdona over the edge. In a misguided attempt to change Gwen's mind, she tries to destroy Gwen's physical body to reveal what her true power could look like beyond it. Ben and Kevin immediately step in to protect her. Ben transforms into Spider Monkey for the first time. Super random, yes, but honestly, who wouldn't want a Spider Monkey? Dude, I don't know if I could pound your grandma, but it doesn't last long. Gwen eventually helps Verdona understand that she's genuinely happy living as half human. Though disappointed, Verdona accepts her decision and returns to her planet, making it clear that whenever Gwen is ready, she'll be there to teach her everything about Anodites. That brings us to episode 9, The Gauntlet. There's not a whole lot to say here other than Ben transforms into Goop for the first time, a slimy green gelatinous alien that can reshape itself into virtually any form. Moving forward to episode 10, Paradox, Ben, Gwen, and Kevin cross paths with a man named Paradox, a brilliant scientist who has mastered time travel. 50 years ago, Paradox built a time travel device, but during a test run, something catastrophically went wrong. He became trapped inside a time bubble for 100,000 years. Yeah, that is an absurdly long time. Naturally, after spending that much time adrift in the void, he figured out the secrets of time travel. But despite his incredible knowledge, he still needs Ben's help. On the same night his experiment failed, a time-accelerating creature escaped from the accident, and now it's threatening to unravel Earth's future entirely. The group teams up to battle it, but quickly hits a major snag. Anyone who comes into contact with the creature ages instantaneously. Ben hatches a plan to travel back 50 years to the exact moment the experiment failed, believing the answer to defeating the creature is buried there, and he's right. The creature is actually Paradox's old assistant, who was also swept into the time void. Ben prevents this from happening again, and in doing so rewrites history and safeguards humanity's future. Let's touch on episode 12, Plumber's Helpers, as it carries a few important details we'll need later. Ben, Gwen, and Kevin run into Helen and Manny, two young plumbers who have been hunting down aliens. Mistakenly believing Ben and the team are a threat, Helen and Manny pursue them aggressively. Let me out of this bubble, then we'll see what you got. Quiet. They nearly eliminate them using a machine they've been deploying on every alien they've encountered, but they soon figure out the trio are plumbers, just like them, and that their so-called disintegrator machine isn't safe keep as is at all, but sending them into the null void. Realizing what they've done, Helen and Manny resolve to enter the null void themselves. As Ben correctly points out, some of the aliens they sent in there could actually be plumber kids, so Helen doesn't think twice. She goes in to bring them back. A quick look at episode 13, Ben plus 2 equals X. In brief, this episode marks the first time Ben transforms into Alien X, unquestionably the most powerful alien in the Omnitrix. What makes Alien X extraordinary isn't just his ability to do literally everything: warp reality, bend time, reshape space, all without breaking a sweat. It's also the fact that he contains three completely distinct personalities: Serena, the voice of love and compassion; Bellicus, the voice of rage and aggression; and Ben, the voice of reason. But like all great things, there's a catch. The tricky part about three personalities is that if they can't reach agreement, Alien X becomes completely immobilized. Did you ever decide anything before? Well, Ben learns this the hard way. Unable to get Bellicus and Serena on the same page, who are constantly at odds with each other, he finds himself unable to control Alien X or return to his own body. That's why once Ben finally gets them to agree and manages to get back, he swears off that transformation entirely. Honestly, dealing with those two sounds exhausting, totally understandable. Season 2 kicks off with episode 1, Dark Star Rising. Remember Mike Morningstar from last season? The charming guy who drained the life energy from high school girls to become all powerful? Well, he's back. But since his glow is completely gone now, he's wearing a mask and going by the name Dark Star. Get it? Dark, because he's no longer glowing, it's Dark Star. Anyway, dead men don't need names. The trio shoves him back into the null void pretty quickly. This might genuinely be the end for him. Episode 2, Alone Together. Ben accidentally gets teleported to a remote desert planet along with the DNAlien commander. Long story short, they're forced to work together to make it back home alive. Despite being enemies, Ben and the DNAlien commander forge an unexpected connection. Stop that this instant. Why? And end up developing something resembling a friendship. Just keep that in mind. Okay, episode 3, Good Copy, Bad Copy. Ben, Gwen, and Kevin come across what appears to be a clone of Ben. Except this one is also wearing an Omnitrix. That's impossible since only one Omnitrix exists in the entire universe. His name is Albedo. He explains that he's stuck in Ben's form and desperately wants his original body back. His strategy: steal Ben's Omnitrix and harness its power for himself. Obviously, the team isn't going to stand by and let that happen, so a fight breaks out. Mid-battle, Azimuth, the Omnitrix's creator, materializes and puts a stop to things. It turns out Albedo is actually Azimuth's former assistant who, consumed by obsession with the Omnitrix's power, defied his direct orders. As punishment, Azimuth hauls him off to prison. Before leaving, Azimuth warns Ben that hard times are coming and he needs to be prepared. Meanwhile, in prison, Albedo makes his intentions perfectly clear. This is far from over. He will get his revenge. Episode 4, Save the Last Dance. Kevin invites Gwen to the school dance. Meanwhile, Ben has been noticing that every time he transforms into an alien, he has absolutely no memory of what happens while transformed, which is honestly a pretty massive problem. He tries reaching out to Kevin for help, but Kevin is so caught up in dance preparations that he can't focus. Left with no other option, Ben turns to Julie. She agrees to help and suggests that Ben transform into an alien while she observes and takes detailed notes on his behavior. Ben shifts and something is clearly wrong. He can't transform into anything other than Big Chill. And worse, he just keeps compulsively eating metal. Well, I guess that's what could happen, I guess. Aren't these things supposed to come with clips? Not if you're older than 12. Meanwhile, Kevin picks Gwen up for the dance, even bringing her favorite flowers. But their plans get disrupted when they have to go deal with Ben's situation. Turns out Big Chill is just laying eggs, a natural process that only happens once every 80 years. Despite the awkwardness, Ben is relieved to finally be back to normal. And even though Kevin and Gwen miss the dance, they end up sharing a quiet moment under the night sky, which turns out to be just as meaningful. They actually look really sweet together. Episode 5, Undercover. Kevin attempts to get a teleporter working, but during a test run, something goes completely wrong and the whole thing detonates. Realizing this is beyond his ability to fix alone, he suggests they track down Cooper, a kid who can mentally interface with and control any electronic device. When they arrive at his workshop, they find he's been abducted by the DNAliens. Gwen locates him, but when the team reaches the coordinates, the place looks totally empty until they notice that the DNAliens have deployed a massive invisibility cloak to conceal one of their biggest projects yet, another set of 3 weather towers. Remember this, because it becomes very important later. After searching the area, the team finally frees Cooper. He's wonderful. Let's go, lover boy. But before they leave, they destroy the invisibility and make it out safely. Back home, Ben knows something major is in motion and that it's only a matter of time before they have to go back and uncover the full truth. In episode 7, Grounded, Ben's parents accidentally stumble upon his secret when they catch him mid-transformation. As expected, they are upset, not just because he hid it, but because they are completely opposed to his dangerous double life filled with constant threats. They ground him, banning him from leaving his room. Meanwhile, Gwen and Kevin take on the DNAliens alone, and Gwen believes she's uncovered new details about their current scheme. Things escalate when Ben's parents direct their frustration at Gwen, blaming her for dragging Ben into this risky lifestyle. She ends up grounded too, "Oh, Vilgax never gave me the mom look, sorry." That leaves Kevin to investigate the DNAlien's plans solo, but Kevin quickly gets overwhelmed, so despite being punished, Ben sneaks out to back him up. Once there, he not only gives Kevin the support he needs, but also figures out what the DNAliens are actually doing, purifying isotopes for some kind of power source. But for what exactly? Before they can answer that, the DNAlien commander attacks and Ben and Kevin are badly outnumbered. Just as things look hopeless, backup arrives from an unexpected source, Ben's parents. They dive into the fight and help take the DNAliens down. In the end, not only do they lift Ben's punishment, they actively encourage him to keep doing what he's doing to protect the world. Moving on to episode 8, Voided. Gwen receives a call from Helen asking for urgent help. Something has gone terribly wrong inside the null void and they need reinforcements. Ben decides to go in alone since he knows how dangerous the place is for Gwen and Kevin. Plus, somebody needs to hold the portal open for his return. Once inside the null void, Ben quickly discovers that Helen and Manny aren't trying to escape. They called him in to fight someone known only as the Dominator. That someone is Dr. Animo, and a fight immediately erupts. Turns out he's been commanding creatures called the Rooters and using them to terrorize the null void's inhabitants. After a tough brawl, Ben, Helen and Manny break free and are guided by their companion Pierce to meet the Ranger. And then comes the twist. The Ranger turns out to be none other than Grandpa Max. Apparently he never actually died. When he detonated that grenade, it teleported him into the null void instead. This show truly never stops with the plot twists. Max explains that Dr. Animo is building a machine that can rip open a dimensional breach, allowing his monster army to pour through and invade Earth. To shut it down, Ben teams up with Max and the Plumber helpers, and together they take him down. As they celebrate, Gwen manages to open a small portal for Ben to get back. Ben urges Max to come through with him, but Max chooses to stay, knowing there's still vital work to be done in the null void. Though Ben returns alone, he's deeply relieved knowing his grandfather is alive and well. Okay, in episode 12, War of the Worlds Part 1, after Asmuth's home planet is overrun by the DNAliens and hybrids, Paradox brings him directly to Ben. I sincerely hope you'll reconsider in the next 3 seconds or so, convinced that Ben is the only one in the universe with any real chance of stopping them. When they arrive, Ben is stunned to see them, but instantly grasps the gravity of the situation. Asmuth explains that Earth is next on the hybrids list. Their strategy is to install jump gates on every planet they conquer, which function as interstellar shortcuts, allowing their warships to cross the galaxy in seconds. To stop them, the team must find and destroy Earth's jump gate. Gwen figures out it's located at the abandoned mine where they found Cooper after his kidnapping. Turns out those weren't just weather towers. It was a jump gate under construction the whole time. While Gwen, Kevin, and Paradox go recruit reinforcements, Ben and Asmuth share a critical conversation about the Omnitrix. Asmuth tells Ben that the device is essentially a cosmic Noah's Ark housing the DNA of over 1 million different species because of its incalculable value. Asmuth refuses to allow Ben to fight. If the Omnitrix is destroyed, all hope for the universe goes with it. But Ben insists on joining the battle. The human race is at stake. After some deliberation, Asmuth agrees and unlocks full master control access to the Omnitrix, allowing Ben to access millions of alien transformations. Then Gwen, Kevin and Paradox arrive with a full assembled team. Darkstar, Cooper, Ship, Julie and Alan. Together they move on the hybrid base, battling the enemy while Cooper operates a machine designed to revert DNAliens back into humans. Inspired by watching this, Ben uses the Omnitrix for the same purpose and also debut, way big for the first time, his most enormous alien transformation, in an attempt to demolish the portal. But he fails. That's when things take a dangerous turn. The jump gate activates, ripping open a colossal portal. Within moments, an entire fleet of hybrid warships pours through. It's simply too much. The team starts to crack, beginning to believe it's already too late. But Ben has one more plan. Take out the main control tower and force the hybrid captain to recall his ships. It sounds insane, but the team backs him up. In Kevin's car, now sleek and deadly after being upgraded with alien technology, Ben, Gwen and Kevin race toward the tower. Inside, they go head to head with the DNAlien commander. Things start spiraling the wrong way until Gwen unleashes her anodite form and brings him down hard. She wants to remain in that powerful state, but Kevin convinces her to return to normal, admitting he's terrified of losing her because she simply isn't ready for that much power yet. Pretty romantic in its own way, right? Meanwhile, Grandpa Max, Helen, Manny and Pierce join the battle on the ground, but they soon realize that defeating the DNAlien commanders isn't enough to end the war. The real decision makers are at the hybrid homeworld. So while the rest of the team stays behind to hold off the DNAliens, Ben, Gwen, Kevin, Julie and Asmuth pass through the portal to confront the hybrid supreme directly. There Asmuth drops a bombshell. The hybrids aren't attacking out of malice or a belief in their own superiority. It's desperation. This is the last generation of hybrids, is it not? You are correct. Their species is dying and they are the last of their kind. Their solution? Wipe wipe out all life in the universe so they don't have to face extinction alone. Okay, these guys are still villains, but I'll admit that's a little heartbreaking. That's the moment Ben's mind shifts to a completely different approach. Why destroy them when you can help them instead? Using the Omnitrix, he reprograms the hybrid's DNA, weaving in the genetic code of random alien species so that their lineage can survive beyond this generation. Astonishingly, it works. At first, the hybrids erupt in fury, convinced their genetic purity has been compromised. But then an elder hybrid commander steps forward, the very same one Ben got stranded with on that desert planet, the one they had to survive alongside before they could make it home, and he talks them down. In the end, the hybrids withdraw the invasion and return home. With the battle finally over, everyone separates and heads their own way. Max takes the Plumber kids for formal training. Gwen and Kevin leave to work on restoring his car, and Ben sits down with Azimuth for one more conversation. Because after expending so much of the Omnitrix's power throughout the battle, the device has fully reset, giving him an entirely new set of alien transformations to figure out all over again. Here we go again. Kicking off season 3 with Vengeance of Vilgax Part 1. Vilgax is back and he's more dangerous than he's ever been. Yes, Vilgax, Ben's greatest nemesis, first introduced in the original series. Apparently, Vilgax defeated Ultimos, the most powerful champion on his planet, and absorbed all of his power. Now possessing the combined abilities of the greatest heroes from 10 different worlds, fantastic. And what does he want? Revenge on Ben, truly fantastic. On Earth, his loyal right-hand operative Siphon is busy preparing for his arrival. Meanwhile, Max, out on duty with the Plumber helpers, picks up a signal and follows it to a park, People of Earth, where they come face to face with him. Despite being outnumbered 6-1, Vilgax dismantles them effortlessly. He then demands Max bring Ben to him, threatening to destroy the entire planet if he refuses. When news reaches Ben, he's practically eager about it. After all, he's already beaten Vilgax before. How much harder could it be this time? But Gwen isn't convinced and pushes back. Knowing Vilgax is operating on a completely different level now, Kevin proposes hacking the Omnitrix to give Ben full access for the showdown. Gwen disagrees, but Kevin doesn't care and does it anyway, only for Azimuth to suddenly appear as a hologram, warning Ben not to do it since he isn't remotely ready for that level of power. Want to help me? No. Scared of the little guy? Yes. But Ben ignores him, tries the hack again, and everything spirals out of control, culminating in a massive explosion. The aftermath of the explosion is ugly. The Omnitrix is malfunctioning badly. 4 aliens have physically broken free of it, and Kevin has mutated into a disturbing fusion of multiple materials, unable to revert to his original form. Just a regular Tuesday for the Tennysons. Azimuth is furious. He reappears as a hologram, tears into Ben for ignoring his warning, but ultimately outlines how to recapture the escaped aliens and bring them back into the Omnitrix. There's just one condition. Ben has exactly 24 hours to get it done or those aliens are gone permanently. With the clock ticking and Vilgax still waiting for their confrontation, the team scrambles to run down the missing aliens. But getting them back proves far easier said than done. Goop, Spider Monkey and Chromastone all put up real fights, forcing Ben and the others to take a serious beating before Ben manages to recapture them. Unfortunately, there's no time left to find way big before the fight with Vilgax begins. Ben 10, I've come to kill you and conquer your world. Is now a bad time? Once the battle starts, Ben throws absolutely everything he has at Vilgax, but the Omnitrix keeps glitching at the worst possible moments. Just when it seems like he might be holding his own, Vilgax destroys Chromastone. For a moment, everyone believes Ben is finished, but then from the rubble he emerges, having transformed into Diamond Head, restored and stronger than ever. Ben finally brings Vilgax down. He's won. But one question lingers. What exactly happened to Chromastone? And why is the Omnitrix still not working properly? Jumping ahead to episode 9 in Charm's Way, Ben, Gwen and Kevin are enjoying a relaxed day at the beach when a sea monster suddenly bursts out of the water and charges them. The creature quickly retreats through a portal before they can react, leaving the trio thoroughly confused. On the other side of the portal, Charmcaster, an old enemy of Gwen's, is plotting her revenge for Gwen taking her spellbook. Her original plan is to simply destroy Gwen, but once she realizes just how close she is to Kevin, the plan evolves. Why not hurt Gwen by taking away someone she loves instead? Disguising herself as a girl named Caroline, Charmcaster finds Kevin when he's alone, proceeds to flirt with him, and plants seeds of doubt in his mind about Gwen by suggesting she's selfish for not using her considerable magical abilities to restore him to his original form. Then she kisses him, locking him under a spell. To seal it, she gives him an enchanted necklace and instructs Kevin to bring Gwen to the planetarium, where she can strip away her powers. Kevin returns to Gwen, who is with Ben, and tries to get her to come along, but both of them immediately sense that something is off. Gwen spots the necklace and destroys it, breaking the spell, and Kevin, now fully himself again, tells them everything that happened with Charmcaster, including the kiss. Furious, but completely locked in. Gwen skips the argument and goes straight for the planetarium to handle this herself. But when she gets there, Charmcaster drains all of Gwen's powers after a brief exchange and vanishes. Meanwhile, Ben and Kevin, who had been caught up fighting stone creatures, rush to Gwen's side. She's devastated, not just from losing her magic, but from what Kevin said earlier about her not working to restore him. While Ben and Gwen leave together, Kevin does something reckless. He tracks down Charmcaster on his own, hoping she can fix him. But in doing so, he accidentally reveals that she didn't drain Gwen completely. Charmcaster immediately heads back to finish the job, only to walk right into a trap. They fight, and this time Gwen comes out on top, reclaiming every bit of her power. Later at the beach, Ben pulls Kevin aside and tells him straight up that he hurt Gwen badly. Not just with the kiss, but with his words. Kevin tries to argue, but Ben cuts him off, letting him know that Gwen has been poring over spellbooks non-stop, desperately searching for a way to restore him. For the first time, the weight of what he's done hits Kevin fully, and the guilt settles in hard. On to episode 10, Ghost Town. Ben, Kevin, and Gwen are at minigolf attempting to capture an alien when something comes screaming out of the sky. They race over and realize it's not a meteorite, it's Vilgax, and he's asking for help. What was it you needed? I need your help. He explains that Ghost Freak has broken out of maximum security prison and seized control of his entire planet by possessing its inhabitants and converting them into his minions. Though they have every reason not to trust Vilgax, the group ultimately agrees to help. Ghost Freak is someone they want behind bars just as badly. Upon arrival at Vilgax's planet, their skepticism fades. The world is exactly as Vilgax described, completely under Ghost Freak's grip. The team moves fast, heading for the palace where Ghost Freak is operating from. Once inside, Ben hatches a plan. Use the Omnitrix to become Ghost Freak himself, but the plan immediately backfires. The moment Ben completes the transformation, Ghost Freak seizes control of his body, triggering an intense struggle between Ben in his Ghost Freak form and the rest of the team. After a grueling fight, Ben reclaims control and successfully contains Ghost Freak inside the Omnitrix. With Vilgax's planet liberated, the team makes for home. But as they depart, Vilgax makes one thing absolutely clear. This is far from over, because now thanks to Ghost Freak, he knows exactly how to take the Omnitrix episode 14. Primus opens with a flashback to the day Vilgax broke Ghost Freak out of prison. On that day, Ghost Freak shared a critical piece of intelligence on how to defeat Ben through something called Primus. Present day, Ben, Gwen and Kevin are in the middle of fighting a rogue robot when the Omnitrix starts behaving erratically. Ben struggles to understand what's happening while Gwen and Kevin hold the fight together. Before Ben can do anything, a blast of green energy erupts from the Omnitrix. In an instant, all three of them are teleported to an unknown planet. The moment they land, the Omnitrix detaches itself from Ben's wrist and announces that it must return to its creator. It then moves toward what appears to be a volcano filled with glowing green lava. The trio follows without hesitation. Without the Omnitrix, Ben is just an ordinary kid. When they reach the volcano, they witness a confrontation between Vilgax and a figure that looks like a Humongosaur. Ben initially assumes this must be Primus, but they quickly realize it's actually Azimuth, now in possession of the Omnitrix. Seeing Azimuth struggling to hold his own, Gwen and Kevin leap in to help, but Vilgax overpowers them easily and chains them up. Azimuth manages to slip free and circles back to reveal a stunning secret to the team. Primus is not a being, it's the planet itself. He explains that he engineered Primus as a vast biological repository to store and preserve the DNA profiles of every known alien species. The Omnitrix is directly connected to Primus, which is the very reason it functions the way it does. Mid-explanation, Vilgax returns and demands to know how to operate the Omnitrix. Azimuth refuses, but Ben steps forward and offers to teach Vilgax himself in exchange for Gwen and Kevin's freedom. Ben walks Vilgax through the activation process, and for a brief terrifying window, Vilgax gains access to its enormous power. But Ben cleverly reclaims the device and ignites an all-out battle. He transforms into way big and after an epic clash, defeats Vilgax decisively. In the aftermath, Azimuth allows Ben to keep the Omnitrix once more, but this time he takes significant precautions, promising to conceal Primus so thoroughly that no one will ever be able to find it again. In episode 18, Vendetta, Kevin is driven by a singular desire for vengeance against Ragnarok, the villain directly responsible for his father's death. It turns out that years ago, Kevin's father Devin worked alongside Max as a plumber. During a critical mission, Devin stole a key from Ragnarok but didn't survive to make it out. Fast forward to the present, and Ragnarok has broken free from the null void, single-minded in his goal of recovering that key. After learning the full story of his father's death, Kevin is consumed with rage and heads off to face Ragnarok entirely on his own. But Gwen and Ben, having heard the truth from Grandpa Max, refuse to let him do it alone, even if Kevin would rather they stayed out of it. The three fight Ragnarok together, but Ragnarok isn't interested in them. He only cares about the key. And when he realizes Kevin has no idea where it is, he takes off. But Gwen comes through. Using Using her powers, she enters Kevin's subconscious and locates the key. The trio rushes to retrieve it, but the moment they get their hands on it, Ragnarok reappears and takes it directly from them. It turns out the key unlocks his ship, which he plans to use to drain the sun's energy and devastate everything in reach. Determined to stop him, the trio teleports onto Ragnarok's ship. Kevin insists on taking revenge by himself, so he tricks Ben and Gwen into escape pods and sends them back to Earth while he stays to settle things alone. After a fierce and brutal fight, Kevin defeats Ragnarok and takes the key back, because if anyone is getting closure today, it's Kevin. Wrapping up with episode 19, the final battle part 1. Albedo, who has escaped from prison, has gotten his hands on something called the Ultimatrix by stealing it directly from Azimuth. It's an upgraded version of the Omnitrix that importantly has no bonded owner. Albedo's goal is to use it to restore himself to his original body, but there's a problem. The Ultimatrix is synchronized with Ben's Omnitrix, which means Albedo has to steal Ben's watch for the plan to work, and he's not operating alone this time. Vilgax is in his corner, though Vilgax has made it abundantly clear that the Omnitrix no longer interests him. His only objective is to eliminate Ben once and for all. Their approach is methodical. Pick off Ben's allies one by one until he stands completely alone and becomes an easy target. Albedo moves first against Kevin, then Gwen. Say goodnight, Gwen. But when he comes for Max, Max manages to escape. Max rushes to warn Ben immediately. But before he can deliver the warning, Albedo sends Ben a message. He wants to see his friends again show up at the coordinates provided. Max urges Ben to hold off, to let him round up the Plumber kids and put together a proper plan. Max knows Ben has no realistic shot going in alone, but in signature Ben fashion he ignores it and walks right into it. Terrible instinct. Albedo reveals that the Ultimatrix far surpasses the Omnitrix, capable of pushing any alien transformation into its evolved ultimate form. Outmatched and out of options, Ben recognizes he's in deep trouble. Seeing Vilgax standing alongside Albedo, he reluctantly hands over the Omnitrix. Picking up exactly where we left off, Ben is saved just in time by Max's arrival. After freeing Gwen and Kevin, Max puts Gwen's spellbook into her hands, which she immediately uses to get all of them to safety. Albedo presses Vilgax to hand over the Omnitrix as agreed, but Vilgax betrays him the moment he has what he wants. He links the Omnitrix to his soldiers, transforming them into Humongosaur warriors, and locks Albedo up. Meanwhile, back in the van, Max and the team try to work out a plan to recover the Omnitrix. Ben, completely overwhelmed, slips away on his own. Gwen moves to follow, but Max stops her, telling her Ben just needs space. There's too much pressing on him right now. Ben heads into the woods and reaches out to Azimuth. Azimuth appears and reveals something that reframes everything. The Omnitrix was originally intended for Max, the greatest plumber alive. Ben only found it by accident, but Azimuth assures him that Ben was worthy of it, because Max himself vouched for him and convinced Azimuth he was the right person to carry it. Those words are exactly what Ben needed. He heads back to the van with renewed purpose and a plan forming in his mind. With Gwen's help, the team teleports directly onto Vilgax's ship, where he's preparing to destroy Earth. Vilgax fights back hard, but Ben times every move perfectly. He demands the Omnitrix returned, threatening to trigger the self-destruct sequence. Vilgax has 30 seconds to comply or the watch is gone forever. Vilgax calls the bluff, and sure enough, the Omnitrix begins to self-destruct. But something unexpected and extraordinary happens as it goes. Kevin reverts completely to normal. He's no longer a mutation. And as a bonus, Gwen gives him a kiss. About time. With the Omnitrix gone, Ben cuts a deal with Albedo freedom in exchange for the Ultimatrix. Ben walks away with his powers fully restored and finally defeats Vilgax. Well, mostly. Ultimate Swampfire. The team stops Earth's destruction and sends Vilgax's ship to the ocean floor, where it detonates in a spectacular blast. Everyone exhales. It's finally over. Ben though makes sure they understand if Vilgax survived, it doesn't really change anything. It'll just be another day for hero time. So wipe the rust off that Omnitrix, because we're jumping straight into the next chapter. Ultimatrix. The series kicks off with the episode Fame, where Ben's secret identity gets blown wide open to the world through a leaked video posted online. Rather than portraying Ben as a hero, the footage frames him as someone launching a one-man, or in this case one boy, invasion of Earth. Ben is crushed that the world sees him as a danger and a menace after everything he sacrificed for the entire universe, and finds some comfort in spending time with his girlfriend Julie. Kevin meanwhile did some digging while Ben was dealing with the fallout and tracked down whoever was responsible for leaking the video. The internet conspiracy theorist behind it all turns out to be a 10-year-old who happens to be Ben's biggest fan in existence. Jimmy walks them through how he pieced together that Ben was behind all the alien transformations and explains he only released the video because he wanted the world to know how incredible Ben was. His intentions were never to make Ben look like a threat. Jimmy also reveals he found footage of an unidentified alien somewhere in Florida that Ben and the group don't recognize at all, so they decide to investigate. It's here that Kevin unveils their upgraded transport, the new Rust Bucket, which started life as a Plumber ship and has since been heavily modified thanks to Kevin's tinkering. They launch off toward Florida and enter restricted airspace near the alien sighting, where they're almost immediately engaged by the military stationed there. Kevin is forced to defend the ship while Ben transforms into Jet Ray to rescue one of the ejected pilots whose parachute ignites on the way down. Despite the rescue, Ben is still detained, only being released by Colonel Rosum once Gwen and Kevin show Rosum exactly who Ben is, and Rosum quickly realizes Ben might be the only person capable of dealing with their problem. The unknown alien has apparently been stealing components from a NASA interstellar rocket. Nobody knows why yet, but know that Ben is on site. There's finally a shot at stopping it. As if right on cue, the alien attacks the base again, and Gwen and Kevin engage it. Ben struggles with his Ultimatrix, which proves to be a frustratingly recurring inconvenience throughout the series. He eventually gets it cooperating and shifts into Chromostone, but the alien defeats him without breaking much of a sweat. It escapes with the rocket's engine, which turns out to be atomic core given the nature of the mission. They track where it went and find that it's been scavenging parts to repair its own ship so it can make it back home. The catch is that launching the repaired ship would trigger the bomb, wiping out millions of people across Florida. Ben shifts into Spider Monkey and engages the alien in combat, but it still proves to be on a completely different level, so Ben commits fully and unleashes the Ultimatrix, pushing Spider Monkey into Ultimate Spider Monkey, which honestly looks closer to a spider ape than anything. He defeats the alien and Kevin disarms the atomic core with just 10 seconds remaining. Now wrapped in webbing, the alien identifies himself as Bivelvan, an Orishan, and explains he was abducted from the Andromeda galaxy along with 4 others by a creature named Aggregor. They all managed to escape but crash landed separately on Earth. Ben and Gwen give him their word they'll help him get home using the Plumbers, 4 aliens that aren't in the Ultimatrix. That's pretty cool. Unfortunately, while waiting for the Plumbers to facilitate his return, Bivelvan is recaptured by Aggregor. Hit them where they live is a skippable episode, so we won't spend much time here. In short, with Ben's identity now public, many of his old enemies like Charmcaster, Vulcanus and Zombozo the Clown now know exactly who he is and where to find him. They go after his family to send a message. Ben and the crew fight back when they kidnap Ben's mom Sandra. We see Ben shift into Ultimate Big Chill, who can breathe fire so intensely cold it actually burns. We also get to see Gwen fully embrace her anodite form, something she swore she'd never do again in order to pull Sandra back from Zombozo. In the end, the villains are shut down and Sandra is safe. In Escape from Aggregor, another alien is tearing through downtown, forcing Ben and the gang into action. Gwen notices that the aliens' attacks aren't directed at people, only property, and figures out it's desperately trying to communicate. They deploy their new universal translators, a gift from the Plumbers dating back to their fight against a dragon in a previous episode, and discover this alien is another one of the 5 who escaped Aggregor. His name is Galapagos, a Geoshelonario, who explains his species is entirely non-violent. They were attacked by Aggregor, who has the ability to drain the life energy from anyone he touches. He captured Galapagos and held him alongside Bivelvan and the others, Rad, Rad and Andreas Talpadian. Using their combined abilities, the group escaped and boarded another ship, but Aggregor shot them down as they fled, forcing them to crash land on Earth. They scattered, each searching for a route back home, which is how Galapagos ended up crossing paths with Ben. Ben helps get Galapagos off the planet, but not before scanning his DNA into the Ultimatrix. Unfortunately, the Plumber assigned to escort Galapagos home turns out to be Aggregor in disguise. 2 down, 3 to go. Kevin discovers Pandor hiring people in an attempt to crack open his containment suit so he can be free from it. Nobody can break through since the outer shell is forged from Titanite, a material found on Earth. Kevin gets closer than anyone when he absorbs Titanite, the hardest mineral in the galaxy, but backs off when his instruments detect that whatever Pandor is concealing beneath the shell is radioactive. Pandor won't say what it is and sends the other recruits to fight Kevin until he agrees to help break him out. Kevin escapes and gets out of there but has to leave his Titanite behind. He reports back to Ben and Gwen, and they pick up Pandor's trail as he tunnels underground alongside the other recruits he's hired. During the fight, Ben shifts into Ultimate Humongosaur, stronger and more durable than the base form, and also capable of launching missiles. But Ben doesn't account for where they are and accidentally causes a cave-in, giving Pandor an opening to escape. Throughout the fight, Gwen tried to use strategy instead of brute force and attempted to appeal to Pandor non-violently, hoping to offer help. Kevin calls her approach naive and walks off, which gives Pandor and his crew the chance to grab Kevin. Pandor then manipulates Kevin into breaking open his suit and he finally gets loose. He immediately begins absorbing energy from everything swirling around him, causing chaos and destruction. Ben and Gwen arrive, and Gwen once again attempts a peaceful resolution, but Pandora attacks her and leaves her injured. He then flies off toward a nuclear reactor to feed, and Ben shifts into Bivalven's form, attempting to appeal to Pandora by pointing out that what he's doing will devastate the planet. Pandora doesn't care, he's ravenous, and another fight breaks out. They eventually overpower Pandora and force him back into the suit when Ben shifts into Ultimate Cannonball, and the plumbers transport him back to his home planet. But as expected, it doesn't take Aggregor long to recapture him as well. Man, these plumbers really are not good at their jobs. 0 and 3. In Andreas's fault, the Forever Knights crash Ben's autograph signing to steal yet another mystical alien artifact. This time a generic smoothie machine. Unable to make sense of this strange new direction from the Forever Knights, the team enlists Jimmy to see if he has any intel. Jimmy shows them surveillance footage of the Forever Knights stealing food from restaurants across the city, but never taking any cash or anything of actual value, and nothing remotely alien related. Jimmy pinpoints one of the Forever Knights castles, and when they get there they find it reduced to rubble. They locate another castle and break in, discovering that Argit, a familiar old foe of Ben's, has somehow managed to talk his way into becoming the leader of the Forever Knights. He explains he pulled it off by befriending a frightened Andreas, who could tunnel through any material and occasionally cause tremors powerful enough to collapse the Forever Knights' own castles. Right at that moment, the legendary Sir Dagonet arrives and reclaims authority over the Forever Knights with remarkable ease. He takes everyone into custody, but before he can fully secure things, Argit attempts to betray everyone around him, including his own friend Andreas. They break out of their cell with minimal effort, since apparently nobody thought to place them somewhere that actually neutralizes their abilities, and fight back against Dagonet to rescue Andreas from destruction by energy blast. They succeed, but Dagonet converts the cannon into a bomb, buying himself and his knights enough time to retreat. Andreas steps in and absorbs the cannon's energy, sacrificing himself so Ben and the others can escape safely. Once they're clear, Kevin calls Argit out directly for exploiting and betraying his best friend for personal gain. Everyone grieves Andreas' death. However, it turns out Andreas survived and Aggregor recovers his broken body. Infused catches Ben managing to finally get some sleep after 4 straight all-nighters spent searching for the escaped aliens. When Rudd attacks him in his room, Rudd, whose abilities revolve around electrical energy, is quickly neutralized when Ben tosses him into a swimming pool. What is that? Ben and the group capture him and bring him to an abandoned military base in Los Soledad, where Rudd explains he went after Ben because he believed Ben had been helping Aggregor recapture the others. Ben tries to convince him they're on the same side, but Rudd reveals that Aggregor managed to track and recapture everyone by using Ben's Ultimatrix as a homing beacon. He wants the watch destroyed before it leads Aggregor straight to him again. He attacks the Ultimatrix, but a beam fires out of it unexpectedly, triggering an explosion, and Rudd vanishes. Aggregor arrives almost immediately, demanding to know Rudd's location. They lie and Aggregor attacks. Whatever Rudd did to the Ultimatrix is blocking Ben's ability to transform. After furious button pressing, Ben manages to activate it, but he can only shift into Rudd's alien species. Even with that, Aggregor is simply too powerful and Gwen has to teleport everyone to safety. Once they're safe, Rudd reappears inside Ben's mind, revealing he fused himself with the Ultimatrix to prevent Aggregor from tracking them, and his consciousness is now merged with Ben's. Kevin decides to reboot the Ultimatrix despite the risk of reopening their location to Aggregor, which prompts Rudd to fight back and take complete control of Ben's body. Kevin manages to pull Ben free from Rudd, but Rudd breaks out and flees as Aggregor drops in from above. Again with the roof, you've never heard of using a door. Aggregor attacks, but thankfully the Ultimatrix is functioning again and Ben can shift into anything freely. The problem is Aggregor absorbs every attack from every transformation, growing more powerful with each one. Rudd reappears and finds Kevin pinned outside, and Kevin persuades him to come back and help, reminding him he used to be just like Rudd once. Rudd chooses to sacrifice himself, allowing himself to be taken by Aggregor so Ben can survive. With all 5 aliens now back in Aggregor's possession, Kevin believes the situation is unwinnable, but Ben assures them otherwise because just like Aggregor, he has all 5 aliens catalogued in his Ultimatrix, and he intends to use that to end Aggregor for good. Moving to episode 10, Ultimate Aggregor, which aired on October 10th, 2010, keeping the Ben 10 tradition alive. The episode opens with Aggregor preparing to transport Rudd back to his ship when a squadron of plumbers intercepts him. Aggregor takes them apart and secures both Rudd and himself aboard his ship. But just as he's about to depart, one of the plumbers manages to destroy the ship's hyperdrive, forcing Aggregor to set down far from his intended destination. Grandpa Max brings Ben and the team up to speed on what happened, and Kevin investigates the aftermath of the battle to piece together where Aggregor might have landed. They're eventually quickly ambushed by Aggregor's forces and fight them off. Ben pushes ahead and boards Aggregor's ship alone, but Max figures out it was a trap too late as the ship detonates with Ben inside. Fortunately, Ben had shifted into Lodestar before the explosion, which is the only reason he survived. Where is Aggregor? With Aggregor's location still unknown, Colonel Rosum arrives to inform them that Aggregor has turned up in Los Soledad, attempting to use equipment constructed by Professor Paradox, another of Ben's longtime allies, to complete the absorption process. Professor Paradox warns them about the consequences of Aggregor using the machine, then pulls Kevin aside for a quiet word, advising him to remember who his true friends are. This becomes critically important later, so don't let it slip. Your friends are strange. Rosum has been ordered to keep his troops out of it, giving Ben and the team the clearance to go after Aggregor without restraint. Ben shifts into ultimate swarm fire and they assault the base, fighting their way inside. Kevin tries to appeal to Aggregor's one osmotion to another, warning him that absorbing that much energy leads to madness, pointing to his own past as proof. Aggregor doesn't care. He absorbs the energy of all 5 aliens and transforms into a terrifying amalgamation of all 5 forms and every power that comes with them. Map of Infinity picks up right where the previous episode left off as Ben attacks Aggregor using Humongoso, literally hurling the entire base at Aggregor's head. But Aggregor has grown too powerful and proceeds to toss Ben and the others around like they weigh nothing. Aggregor knocks Ben unconscious, and when he comes to, Asmuth is standing over him. Asmuth transports them to Galvan Prime, which has been rebuilt following the war against the Hybrids, and informs them that Aggregor intends to acquire the Map of Infinity, a complete chart of all of space-time that leads to a mysterious location known as the Forge of Creation. Aware of how catastrophically dangerous this could be in the wrong hands, Professor Paradox split it into 4 pieces and concealed them across different parts of the galaxy. The 5 aliens Aggregor specifically captured were chosen because each of them can locate one of the 4 pieces. Ben and the crew travel to the first location, a tightly secured planet called Migdalth, and suit up to land at the zone where extreme heat and extreme cold converge on the planet's surface. This is a Plumber suit, right? I was just making sure my butt crack wasn't showing. They discover a temple populated by the same alien species as Big Chill, the Necrophrygians. Inside, they navigate one trap after another as Gwen leads them toward the piece, eventually coming face to face with a 2-headed creature that can blast both fire and ice simultaneously from its mouths. They defeat it and pinpoint the artifact's location, but they're then maneuvered into a situation that allows Aggregor to simply walk in and take it from them. Enraged, Ben channels the full strength of 4 arms to wrench the door open himself, allowing Kevin to pull a sedated Gwen to safety. They barely make it back to the ship before Ben's Ultimatrix overheats, and Ben makes a vow: Aggregor will not get another piece. The episode deep begins with Ben receiving a call from Plumber Magister Pike, who reports that Aggregor has been spotted on the aquatic planet Piscis. They arrive and Kevin pilots, or rather dives, the rust bucket beneath the planet's ocean surface. They meet up with Pike and learn that Aggregor isn't in the ocean at all but inside the heavily fortified planetary core. They reach the core and find it still guarded, but with clear evidence that Aggregor somehow already got through. Pike leads them deeper, but a tremor triggers a cave-in that traps him. Ben and Kevin push ahead and discover that Aggregor has already located the second piece, which has been disguised as a gravitational stabilizer responsible for holding the water-covered planet together. They attempt to stop him, but Aggregor defeats them both with ease, makes off with the second piece, and somehow seals the opening behind him. Ben shifts into Big Chill and gives chase, while Pike's forces, not seeing Aggregor and drawing the wrong conclusions, assume Kevin and the team were the ones trying to wreck their planet. Ben pursues Aggregor, but Pike's forces keep getting in the way, and Aggregor ultimately gets away. Ben uses the gravitational device that normally keeps Goop together as a substitute to stabilize the planet, which saves Piscis from collapse. Pike's crew repair the rust bucket as a gesture of gratitude. Where the magic happens opens with the team chasing Aggregor as he passes through a mystical passage called the Door to Anywhere. It seals right behind him, but Ben managed to observe the runes that lit up on the doorway when Aggregor spoke his destination. Gwen tries to decipher them, but since she's been entirely self-taught when it comes to her magical abilities, she has to call on the one person capable of helping: Charmcaster. It takes a brief fight before Gwen manages to convince her to cooperate, especially once Gwen points out that the dimension Aggregor entered is constructed entirely from mana, the very energy source their magic draws from. Charmcaster explains that this dimension is called Ledgerdomain, the birthplace of all magic and also where Charmcaster herself comes from, and opens the door. Inside, Gwen immediately notices her magic is amplified. Charmcaster reveals the reason is the Alpha Rune, a powerful artifact within the dimension, and they realize this this is the third piece Aggregor came for. The Dark Sorcerer who rules Ledgerdomain Advaita holds the Alpha Rune around his neck, and he believes the team is there to steal it from him rather than stop Aggregor. As they dodge Advaita's forces, Charmcaster opens up to Gwen and reveals that her father Spellbinder was killed while helping Hex and Charmcaster escape from Advaita and Ledgerdomain. Gwen is genuinely moved. They come to a gap in their path where haunting voices from below take the form of Charmcaster's father trying to lure her into falling. Gwen saves her in time, and together they work as a unit to cross safely. Right. They reach Advaita's citadel and Charmcaster confronts him about her father's death. He attacks, but their assault is ultimately just a distraction, and Aggregor swoops in and knocks Advaita out cold, taking the Alpha Rune. Once again, I could never have done it without you. Without the Alpha Rune, Ledgerdomain starts to collapse. Charmcaster opens an exit for them, but stays behind so she can settle things with Advaita herself. Gwen realizes that without the Alpha Rune, Charmcaster has no way to leave the Ledgerdomain, and understands that Charmcaster cared more about freeing her people than stopping Aggregor. Ben promises Gwen they'll find a way back to rescue her, but right now they have one final chance to stop Aggregor. Asmuth contacts Ben and tears into him for failing 3 times to contain Aggregor. He informs them the final piece is located somewhere designed to reject anyone deemed unworthy of it, the Perplexahedron. He teleports them directly to it in another galaxy, with Aggregor already present. They try to stop him, but Aggregor convinces the Perplexahedron he is worthy by presenting 3 of the 4 pieces. A door opens and closes behind him, but Kevin manages to squeeze the rust bucket through before it fully shuts. Inside, they search for Aggregor and find themselves looping endlessly through the same areas as the entire structure is one massive reconfiguring maze. They move through different rooms, accidentally setting off trap after trap, requiring constant improvisation and combat. Ben ultimately cracks the maze's logic, figuring out that the deadlier the trap, the nearer they are to the final piece. They fight through to the maze's center and find the Sentinel, the guardian of the last fragment, who reveals he already knows all about them and voluntarily hands Ben the final piece. The Perplexahedron then begins to fall apart, and as the Sentinel sends them toward their ship, he asks Ben to promise to keep it safe. However, Ben can't abandon the Sentinel to die alone in a crumbling structure, so he goes back with Gwen. They find Aggregor already there attacking the Sentinel and demanding to know where the piece went. Despite the Sentinel begging Ben to leave and protect the piece, Ben engages Aggregor. As expected, Aggregor defeats Ben and takes the piece before leaving. Kevin pulls everyone out as the Perplexahedron disintegrates around them, and the Sentinel delivers a final rebuke to Ben for choosing to save him rather than the map, since his only purpose was to protect it. He fades from existence, his final words being, "All is lost." The Forge of Creation opens with Asmuth laying into Ben and the entire team for letting Aggregor take all 4 pieces. Without a way to pinpoint the Forge of Creation's location, Ben makes the decision to become Alien X, something he swore he would never do again, and requires both Gwen's and Kevin's consent to unlock the transformation. Inside Alien X, Ben attempts to negotiate with Bellicus and Serena, and as expected, they are every bit as impossible to work with as before. Thankfully, Professor Paradox materializes and pulls Ben out of Alien X, revealing he knows the Forge of Creation's location because he was the one who hid it in the first place. Paradox explains that the Forge of Creation is the fundamental origin point of the universe's power, and Aggregor intends to absorb one of the newborn celestial sapiens the Forge produces. He wants to gain absolute omnipotence similar to what Alien X possesses. Paradox transport them beyond the boundary of the universe, where a celestial nebula serves as a barrier between universes, and a celestial infant is on the verge of being born. Paradox departs, offering impossibly vague reasons for everything before leaving them to it, and Aggregor's forces immediately hit them inside the nebula. Their ship sustains damage during the fight, and Ben accidentally makes contact with the barrier, which instantly pulls a 10-year-old version of himself in from the past. Did I really used to be that obnoxious? Used to be. Young Ben agrees to pitch in despite being largely lost as to why he's here or what's happening. They locate the newborn Celestial and end up crash landing on the Celestial Mother's hand since their ship was still damaged from before. Aggregor finds them and attacks, with both versions of Ben working together against him. But Aggregor remains too much to handle, and Kevin is forced to absorb the full power output of the Ultimatrix, just as he once did with Ben's original Omnitrix, transforming himself into a physical fusion of every alien Ben can become. He drains Aggregor's powers and defeats him, but the sheer volume of energy overwhelms Kevin, and he flies away unhinged. Paradox reappears, erases young Ben's memory of everything that just happened before sending him back to his own time, and assures Ben that this chapter isn't over yet. In neither Iron Bar's cage, it's revealed that Kevin, still carrying all the absorbed power from the Ultimatrix, has willingly thrown himself into the Incarceron prison in the Null Void dimension, with the specific intention of permanently neutralizing the Warden, Morg. Through a flashback, we learn that the first time Kevin was trapped in the Null Void, he ended up in this same prison, where a fellow inmate named Quarrel helped him manage the overwhelming power he was carrying back when he absorbed the original Omnitrix, and also taught him how to absorb solid materials. Quarrel organized a breakout attempt, but Morg killed him when he sacrificed himself to ensure Kevin could escape. Ben and Gwen trace where Kevin went and rush to warn Morg, but Morg dismisses the threat as fiction. While there, they accidentally stumble onto what Morg has been forcing the prisoners to extract, which turns out to be a hallucinogenic substance, since Morg has quietly turned the prison into a narcotics operation. Kevin tracks down Morg, but Morg hits him with a shock through the prisoner collars. Ben witnesses this and shifts into Echo, using his sonic abilities to blow out every collar, freeing all the inmates at once. Ben and Gwen find Kevin and Ben shifts into Armored Reload to physically stop Kevin from going through with killing Morg. They get separated in the chaos and Kevin once again stands face to face with Morg. He sends him down in an elevator in a very final way, but Gwen catches Morg before it can end badly. Morg is placed under arrest, but Kevin has already disappeared. Ben begins to wonder whether Kevin has gone past the point of no return and hints at what that might require, but Gwen refuses to give up on him. Absolute Power opens with Kevin continuing his revenge tour by siphoning Alan's Pyronite abilities as his hunger for power intensifies. Ben intervenes to rescue Alan, and Alan confirms to him that he was the first Plumber's helper Kevin went after. Ben pushes Gwen once more on the idea that the only realistic way to stop Kevin is to kill him, especially given the trail of destruction he's left behind. Gwen is still firm that another option exists. Their argument escalates into a full fight between them, with Gwen demonstrating just how dramatically her magical power has grown. It isn't until Ben goes way big that he manages to overpower her, telling her that holding on to sentiment is going to get people killed. Ben then goes after known villains with no pretense, pressing them hard for Kevin's whereabouts. Out of options she's willing to accept, Gwen seeks out Michael Morningstar and demonstrates how badly she needs his help by fully restoring his physical form to what it was before everything that happened to him. Max then reaches Ben and tells him eliminating Kevin may be the right call, but he also reminds Ben that it isn't how Ben operates, because Ben has always had the ability to find the good in people even when no one else can. Gwen finds Ben in the middle of a brutal confrontation with Vulcanus and steps in, introducing her new ally Michael. Michael then reveals that when Kevin overloaded the Dominus Librium in the previous show, he managed to salvage a fragment of it. If they can use it to drain Kevin's powers, there may be a path forward. Gwen lures Kevin into the arcade where they first crossed paths and attempts to reach him. Kevin struggles desperately against the madness consuming him, but ultimately breaks through and finds Gwen, only to absorb her magic in the process. Part 2 opens with Gwen breaking free and falling back to Ben and Michael's position. She's devastated that appealing to Kevin directly didn't work, but Michael assures her that Kevin will come hunting for them now that he's had a taste of Gwen's manner. He then brings them to Cooper, who looks noticeably more built and taller than the last time we saw him. Cooper assures Gwen he'll figure out how to weaponize the Dominus Librium to stop Kevin. It's pretty obvious why Cooper's helping. You not so much. Everyone takes turns holding Kevin off long enough for Cooper to complete the device, until finally Ben is able to render Kevin unconscious using Ultimate Echo. He's about to end it when Gwen stops him. Ben reminds her what Paradox told him about protecting innocent people, and Gwen points out that protecting the innocent absolutely includes Kevin. Ben steps back and tells Gwen she'd better be right about this. They connect Kevin to the machine and successfully drain all his absorbed power, which inadvertently transfers all of it into Michael through the Dominus Librium. But then Ben reveals they saw Michael's betrayal coming from a mile away. They built in a failsafe, stripping Michael of everything the machine transferred. All 5 aliens Aggregor absorbed along with Kevin's restored self are brought back. Kevin, now himself again, shows Michael his appreciation by punching him square in the face. Everyone reconciles and Gwen and Kevin finally share a long overdue kiss. Ben and Kevin are in the middle of their usual measuring contest when a mysterious space pod crashes directly on top of them. Gwen touches the pod and it opens, revealing a beautiful woman inside with no clothing on. They get her covered and try to question her, but she has no memories, only knowing that her name is Eunice. What's unusual about her is that animals are immediately drawn to her and she can absorb and replicate their abilities. Ben starts to fall for her, which honestly is understandable, and Gwen has to gently remind him that Julie is still very much his girlfriend. Have you ever seen anything more beautiful beautiful? Without warning, Sunder shows up and he's there for Eunice. Ben, Gwen and Kevin engage him in combat, and Sunder clarifies in the fight that Eunice isn't actually a person but rather an Omnitrix type device known as the Unitrix. The battle continues as they try to keep Eunice out of Sunder's hands until Azimuth arrives and puts everything in context. It turns out Sunder is working for him, and Eunice was designed to hold alien DNA samples, which is why she took a human female form when Gwen inadvertently activated the pod. Azimuth views her purely as a machine, but Ben argues passionately for her autonomy, pointing out that she is just as alive as any alien stored in his Ultimatrix. Azimuth agrees to let her remain as she is and takes her back so she can be given a meaningful role. But before she goes, she leaves Ben with something beautiful to remember her by. In Revenge of the Swarm, Victor Valdez returns, a villain from Ben. Alien Swarm, who had developed the ability to command nanochips like a queen controls a hive. He attacks Ben in the night and Ben fights him off and recovers one of Victor's nanochips in the process. He brings it to Gwen and Kevin, and they raid Victor's laboratories, only to discover that Victor has been deceased for quite some time. They then track down Victor's daughter Elena, whom Ben very definitely does not have feelings for whatsoever, hoping she can point them toward where these nanochips originated. Even she doesn't recognize them, despite having conducted her own research into her father's nanochips in her own lab. Ben sets up a date with Julie, but when she arrives, she's seized by the nanochips. Ben backs Elena into a corner and forces the truth out of her. She admits the nanochips they've seen are hers and confesses that she is the true queen of the nanochips, having built a false version of her father and taken Julie out of jealousy over Ben's relationship with her. Ben rescues Julie and fights Elena, but the nanochips have fully consumed Elena's consciousness at this point. What's left isn't really Elena anymore. Julie manages to reach through to what remains of Elena, and Elena, with what little control she can reclaim, destroys herself to protect everyone around her. Ben is devastated by Elena's death, but as they walk away, the nanochips stir back to life. The creature from beyond opens with a separate faction of the Forever Knights, led by Winston, digging up a magically sealed vault bearing their insignia, convinced there's alien technology locked inside. A mysterious demonic entity called Lucubra breaks free and abducts several of them before disappearing. Gwen senses a disturbance in the mana field and leads Ben and Kevin to the same vault, where they join forces with Winston and a second Forever Knights faction commanded by Sir Cyrus. They determine that whoever originally sealed the vault used magic, which isn't something a Forever Knight would do. Together, they locate Lucubra in a dark alley feeding on a police officer. Gwen gets too close and Lucubra begins feeding on her, pulling her under its influence. Kevin drags her free and Lucubra attempts the same on him, but Osmotians turn out to be immune to its control for unknown reasons. Lucubra escapes with Winston while Cyrus places blame on Ben for letting it flee. Gwen studies Winston's notes and realizes the seal structure wasn't a vault at all but a dimensional gateway. Gwen uses her magic to locate Lucubra, and a fight breaks out as it continues feeding, but it still maintains a partial psychic grip on Gwen even without direct contact. Kevin improvises a makeshift mental shield for her to block Lucubra's influence on her thoughts. Ben uses NRG to excavate a deep containment pit for Lucubra, and Gwen reseals it using magic just as before. As the Forever Knights depart, Winston reveals he is still under Lucubra's mental control. Meanwhile, a mysterious elderly man at a retirement facility senses the seal has been broken and is visibly distressed when he realizes his worst fear has become real. Ben 10,000 Returns opens with an alternate version of Ben 10,000 using clockwork to defeat Eon, an interdimensional time manipulator Professor Paradox's greatest nemesis. This version of Ben 10,000 has evolved into what he calls Ultimate Ben, granting him access to all of his alien abilities without needing to physically transform. Paradox informs Ben that Eon wasn't defeated, only pushed back through time. Paradox and Ben 10,000 travel to the dimension where our Ben, Gwen and Kevin are located. Arriving after Gwen opened a doorway, using a mysterious artifact the Ultimatrix guided them to. Ben 10,000 and Paradox explain that following his defeat, Eon began jumping between dimensions, systematically hunting down and killing every version of Ben Tennyson he could find. They conclude the only way to stop him is to destroy the Hand of Armageddon before Eon can enter their dimension. However, as the two Bens begin dismantling the device, Paradox recognizes they are actually feeding its power and helping Eon force open a cross-time breach. Eon emerges, triggering another battle between him, his army of masked fighters and the team. During the fight, Eon permanently destroys Way-Big and Swarmfire from Ben's Ultimatrix, aging each form into disintegrating dust. Gwen and Kevin get a closer look at the fighters and realize they're all alternate versions of Ben from other timelines, and Eon is revealed to be yet another alternate version of Ben Tennyson, who has been absorbing other Bens and enslaving them to his will. His goal is to accumulate enough power to overwrite all of history and replace replace it with a timeline in which only he exists. Fortunately, Ben manages to destroy the Hand of Armageddon, which dismantles Zeon entirely. Ben 10,000 returns to his own timeline, but not before restoring Way Big and Swampfire to Ben's Ultimatrix, along with several additional forms Ben had never accessed until now. Paradox then delivers an ominous warning about old George and the creature from beyond. What could that possibly mean? In Moonstruck, we get a glimpse into Max's personal history and the story of how he first met Gwen's grandmother. Ben and the crew are helping Max clear out the old rust bucket when Gwen comes across an unusual bracelet that once belonged to her grandmother Verdona. Max is coaxed into telling the story. Back in the early 1960s, Max was piloting cutting-edge jets for the Air Force when he encountered a UFO. He shot it down but destroyed his own aircraft in the process. The incident got him discharged since nobody believed his account of the UFO, but he was then approached by a general with ties to NASA who believed every word. On his way to NASA, Max stopped at a roadside diner where a stunning woman wearing the same bracelet sat down across from him. She introduced herself as Verdona, and the two connected instantly. She then grows anxious and tells him they need to move, right as a sophisticated robot known as a synthroid appears intent on bringing her back. Max manages to fight it off and they flee in his car. Verdona explains she's an anodite and was being held prisoner in the ship Max shot down, the bracelet being what suppresses her powers. She escaped and used her telepathic abilities to locate him since their minds became connected through her proximity to him. Max attempts to remove the bracelet, but the synthroid catches up before he can and takes Verdona captive. Max uses their mental link to pinpoint the ship's location and goes in after her. A plumber shows up as backup but is knocked unconscious, and Max takes his weapon. Inside the ship, Verdona helps Max identify the synthroid's weakness and they destroy its power core, escaping the blast with the plumber. With the bracelet gone, Verdona is free and Max isn't remotely rattled by her true form. She invites him to leave Earth behind and explore everything beyond what NASA might ever show him, but Max chooses to stay. He wants to earn his place among the stars. She kisses him goodbye, promising they'll see each other again. Max explains that while he never made it to space as an astronaut, the same plumber who was there that night came back and recruited him, and the rest, as they say, is history. And Grandma came back too, right? I mean, you had to meet her again. Well, that's a story for another time. The season 2 finale opens with the same mysterious old man from the Creature from Beyond episode breaking into Area 51, causing the entire facility to inexplicably vanish entirely. Ben and the crew arrive with Cooper at the enormous crater left behind, where Rosum informs them that beneath the facility were secured holding cells housing 775 potentially dangerous alien beings kept there for more than 50 years. Ben shifts into Big Chill and surveys the conditions each prisoner was held in. They're deeply inhumane. While everyone is distracted, one of the prisoners quietly attempts to steal a plumber ship. Ben tries to intercept using Wrath and manages to force it down. They approach the crashed ship, but a failsafe auto-destruct sequence detonates it. Fortunately, the prisoner left a trail of wreckage behind them, so the team follows it. They locate the prisoner and engage it when they hear his story. He was imprisoned unjustly by the Air Force while his entire family was killed during his captivity. He vows vengeance on everyone responsible, starting with Rosum, and breaks free. Ben and the crew fly to Patrick Air Force Base to alert Rosum, unknowingly leading prisoner 775 directly to him. Ben shifts into Wildmoot to track the prisoner, but Rosum arrives home before they can intercept. Ben shifts into Ultimate Wildmoot and defeats prisoner 775, but refuses to kill him even when the prisoner begs for it, reduced to whimpering in fear. The plumbers return prisoner 775 to his home planet and Ben scans his DNA into his Ultimatrix. Max confronts Rosum over what he allowed to happen, but Rosum defends his actions, saying he'd do it all again to protect his country. So by now you're probably wondering who this mysterious old man is. His name turns out to be George, the very person Paradox warned Ben about, and he is the original founder and first knight of the Forever Knights. He brings all the fragmented factions of the Forever Knights back together under one banner, with Driscoll serving as his right-hand man. George then commands a complete purge of all alien life on Earth, and the Forever Knights kill or forcibly drive out more than 500 aliens. Ben and the crew investigate the wave of disappearances by stopping at the shop of a local merchant named Mr. Bauman who supplies goods for the alien community. They find he's been concealing aliens trying to stay out of the Forever Knights' reach, and Ben and the others offer to help move them off planet safely. A supply ship arrives and the Forever Knights hit them, led by Driscoll. They fight them back and Ben formally challenges Driscoll to personal combat. Ben forces Driscoll to submit and his forces stand down and allow the aliens to go free. Driscoll returns to George expecting a dignified punishment fitting of a knight, but instead, George places Driscoll in command and announces he is departing on a quest. Before he leaves, George tells Driscoll to prepare himself for the greatest battle of 100 100 lifetimes. The Flamekeeper's Circle begins with Julie bringing Ben and Kevin along to visit the headquarters of the Flamekeeper's Circle, a group she has recently joined that believes extraterrestrial beings helped humanity develop as a civilization thousands of years ago. They meet the group's leader, Conduit Edwards, who tells them that the most significant of these ancient alien visitors was called Dagon, whom they believe gave humanity its guiding light and will one day return. While Julie is genuinely enthusiastic about what the organization stands for, Ben finds their narrow understanding of aliens and the idea of accelerating a species that hasn't yet earned advancement to be laughable. Growing suspicious, Ben uses DNAlien to sneak through the facility unseen and discovers that Dagon is actually his oldest and most formidable enemy, Vilgax, living in a fish tank in the VIP lounge of a group who believe that Santa Claus drives a flying saucer. Vilgax explains that following their last encounter, he was unable to revert to his original form and washed ashore where he ended up as a carnival freak exhibit. He was eventually discovered by the Esoterica, a secretive inner faction of the Flamekeeper's Circle with the ability to phase in and out of a parallel dimension at will, who brought him here, where he's been impersonating Dagon since he coincidentally resembles him closely enough to pass. Vilgax reveals the Circle is arranging to get him off-world when Edwards and Julie arrive with the Esoterica in tow. Ben tries to make Julie understand that Dagon is Vilgax, but only Julie takes Ben at his word as a fight erupts. Gwen and Kevin arrive to even the numbers, but after destroying the stolen ship Vilgax planned to use and Ben breaking Vilgax's tank, the flooding forces everyone out and the room seals behind them. Ben vows to come back and settle things with Vilgax once and for all. We could all keep arguing about it over dinner. I never did get my dessert. In The Perfect Girlfriend, Julie has been acting unusual lately, even dropping an entire tennis tournament just to spend more time with Ben. It's as though Ben is her singular obsession. Gwen and Kevin shadow Julie to determine if something is wrong, but it isn't until Ben and Julie are alone watching a tournament broadcast that Ben realizes the real Julie is actually at her tournament right now. The Julie who has been catering to his every preference is Elena. She confesses her feelings for Ben once more, promising to use her nanochips to ensure his happiness permanently, whatever that requires. Then the real Julie comes home and Ben moves to shield her from Elena. Elena nearly kills Ben, but Julie somehow gets through to Elena and convinces her to let him go. Elena vanishes, warning Ben that she'll be back to make things right in her own terms. A Night to Remember opens with Ben and the group, supported by a Plumber squad, intercepting Edwards and the Esoterica as they transport Vilgax, still believing he's Dagon. The fight ends with the Circle escaping alongside Vilgax as the warehouse collapses in flames around them, but not before Kevin manages to capture one of the Esoterica. The prisoner turns out to be Winston, who is genuinely confused about his own situation and has no idea what he's doing or why he's become Esoterica. They track down Driscoll and the remaining Forever Knights and discover that Dagon is absolutely real and has been using creatures from his dimension to possess and control people at will. Dagon takes control of Gwen temporarily and delivers a message. Vilgax is hunting for his heart, which George cut out of him centuries ago. Possession of the heart would give Vilgax unlimited power. Driscoll then recounts the original encounter between George and Dagon, an event that became the historical foundation for the legend of Saint George and the Dragon. George pierced Dagon's heart using a sword called Ascalon and sealed Dagon away in another dimension. As long as Ascalon remained embedded in Dagon's heart, he could never reclaim his full power. And as expected, Driscoll breaks their temporary truce and races ahead while they move to protect George. Driscoll and his knights reach the shrine holding Ascalon and the heart, but the Esoterica ambushes them, allowing Vilgax to be first to reach the sword. He absorbs the power of the heart, restoring his original form with significant enhancements, and attacks both factions. Dagon then possesses Winston and directs Vilgax to break the seal so Dagon himself can claim greater power. Gwen snaps back to herself and transports everyone to the seal just in time to watch Vilgax shatter it, but instead of escaping, Vilgax is pulled into the other dimension and Ascalon is left behind. Recognizing that everything appears lost, George reassures them that victory remains possible as he reclaims his sword and its power restores his youth in an instant. Let the dragon come. Picking right up from there, Solitary Alignment begins with Azimuth stepping out of the shadows to announce that he was Ascalon's creator and he demands it returned. George refuses to relinquish it, so Azimuth instructs Ben and the team to take it from him by force. But Ascalon's power is extraordinary and George defeats them all without difficulty before departing for Area 51. Ben is confused by everything that just unfolded and forces Azimuth to explain himself. Centuries ago, Azimuth and the love of his life, Zenith, lived on Primus, where Azimuth was devoted to understanding the fundamental forces governing the universe. He ultimately forged Ascalon as a tool capable of bending reality, but Zenith left him, unwilling to tolerate his recklessness with something so powerful. That I was was once young and stupid as you are at this very moment. Later, an Incursian soldier stole Ascalon intending to use it in warfare, and the consequences led to the complete annihilation of his own planet. Azimuth recovered Ascalon and committed himself to a life of peace from that point forward, which is the philosophy that drove him to create the Omnitrix. It was also in some part a desperate attempt to show Zenith he had changed. Azimuth then gave Ascalon to George in the year 1131 to defeat Dagon. But Azimuth is afraid that this time Dagon won't underestimate him the way he did before. Taking a brief step away from the main story, Gwen breaks into Hex's library hoping to locate a method of freeing Charmcaster from the Ledgerdomain. Hex catches her and tells her regretfully that there is no way to save his niece. But Gwen refuses to accept that and figures out a way to combine scientific principles with magic to re-enter the Ledgerdomain. Inside, they discover that Charmcaster defeated Advaita and has drained him of all his mana. She kills Advaita with finality and reveals that she's been draining all the life energy from every soul in the dimension as part of a ritual sacrifice to bring her father back from the dead. Ben shifts into Upchuck's equivalent alien and they try to get her to stop, but Charmcaster overpowers all three of them and steals their mana as well. She then calls upon Dagon, offering all the souls she's harvested in exchange for her father's resurrection. Dagon accepts, Spellbinder returns and holds his daughter close. But when he learns what she did to restore him, he is stricken with shame and disgust. He refuses to remain and Dagon has no choice but to return all the souls she offered. Ben, Gwen and Azimuth come back to life and leave Charmcaster in the Ledgerdomain, deeply uncertain of what happens next for her. Couple's retreat opens with the team trying to stop Michael from forcing open a gateway into the Ledgerdomain. He succeeds before they can stop him, and Charmcaster is genuinely impressed by Michael's magical skill. She brings him inside. The two begin spending time together and Michael discovers that his powers grow noticeably stronger the longer he remains near her. Eventually, Charmcaster extends genuine trust to Michael and shows him how the exit from the Ledgerdomain works. Then, in a moment of real vulnerability, she reveals her true name to him, Hope. It's an act that romantically gives Michael a degree of influence over her. But this is Michael we're talking about. His concept of romance operates by entirely different rules. Michael exits the Ledgerdomain and is immediately confronted by Ben and the crew. His powers are too diminished outside the dimension, so he retreats back to Charmcaster. Ben and Gwen trace how he opened the door and follow him in. Yeah, everybody knows everybody. Another fight breaks out and in the heat of things, Michael calls Gwen Lovely Gwen. This triggers Charmcaster's jealousy and she demands to know Gwen's name from Michael. Michael goes blank and guesses Heather. Charmcaster erupts in fury and throws all of them out of the Ledgerdomain. With his powers drained outside, Ben and the others are finally able to give Michael the very overdue beating he's had coming. Sadly, Charmcaster stays behind in the Ledgerdomain alone, grieving what she believed might have been genuine love. Beginning of the end opens with the Esoterica storming Kevin's garage to ensure Ben and the team don't interfere with Dagon's arrival. We were sent to destroy any who dare interfere with the coming of Dagon. Simultaneously, the Forever Knights are waging full war against the Esoterica as George presses forward toward the seal. Many Forever Knights fall in this battle, including Paladin, Sir Reginald and Driscoll. Ben and the group crash into the conflict trying to fight alongside the Forever Knights, who still view Ben as an enemy. George and Winston push closer to the seal, but Edwards intercepts them and wounds Winston badly. George kills Edwards, and Winston shortly succumbs to his injuries, with George honoring him by declaring he died as a true knight. George reaches the seal and faces Dagon's herald, who turns out to be Vilgax, now fused with Dagon's energy. Ben rushes to back George up, but it's already too late. Vilgax shatters the seal, revealing a tunnel leading directly into Dagon's dimension, though Dagon himself remains bound within the seal for now. Part 1 of the Ultimate Enemy begins with Vilgax releasing a devastating energy wave that converts everyone on Earth into Esoterica, except for Ben, Gwen, Kevin, George and Julie, who is shielded by ship. They keep fighting Vilgax as the seal continues weakening, with Dagon pouring more power into Vilgax to prepare for his imminent emergence. Gwen and Kevin retreat to Gwen's house hoping to find some way to contain Dagon, where they're immediately swarmed by waves of Esoterica. Look, for all we know, I could be shooting your mom or Julie or Grandpa Max. They fall back inside and Gwen casts a protective barrier, but as they search through her books, Dagon seizes control of Gwen from a distance and pulls her back toward the seal. Gwen draws on the full depth of her anodite power to begin breaking the seal, but Kevin blocks her mind from Dagon's control, knowing she could never bring herself to actually hurt him. Dagon had been working through Gwen because he realized Vilgax was only ever serving his own agenda with Dagon's power. This is further confirmed when Vilgax's former Lieutenant Siphon arrives with a ship primed for whatever Vilgax is privately planning. None of it matters anymore though, because Dagon finally breaks free of the seal, his colossal, horrifying form stretching across across the entire sky. Part 2 begins with Ben pushing the Ultimatrix into ultimate way big, bringing Dagon down to a scale where he can actually face him. Ben learns almost immediately that Dagon possesses full regenerative abilities and cannot be defeated by any conventional approach. Dagon then directs his attention to George, and both he and Ben push everything they have against Dagon. It's still not enough. Eventually George is the only one still standing, and Dagon unleashes a devastating burst of energy that wipes him from existence. Rest in peace, the greatest knight who ever lived. Vilgax then reveals the plan he's been building toward all along and taunts Dagon into retaliating against his treacherous servant. Dagon fires a devastating blast at a machine operated by Siphon, which absorbs Dagon and everything he is entirely. Siphon turns the machine on Vilgax, directing Dagon's full absorbed power into him. Vilgax becomes the most powerful being in existence. Now I am the dragon. Gwen teleports everyone to the former Plumber headquarters concealed within Mount Rushmore, but Vilgax pinpoints them effortlessly, unleashing his power and the esoterica upon them. Gwen activates the base's full defense systems, and Vilgax smashes through them anyway, leaving Ben as the last one standing against him. Ben then takes up Ascalon and uses it to draw every trace of Dagon's power out of Vilgax, restoring him to his original state, now simultaneously holding the power of Dagon and the Ultimatrix. Vilgax tempts Ben with the ability to reshape the entire universe as he sees fit, a universe without evil where Ben can finally be the hero he's always dreamed of being in every sense. Julie arrives, brought there by ship, and makes the case that if Ben uses that power for his own vision of the world, he is no different from Vilgax or any of the other enemies he's ever faced. Gwen and Kevin take her side, both drawing on their own personal experiences of holding too much power as a warning of exactly where that path leads. Ben takes a moment, reflecting on everything they've been through together up to this point, and decides to use all of it to restore every esoterica on Earth back to human form. He then releases the power entirely, and Julie kisses him. Asmuth appears, visibly proud of the choice Ben made, and reclaims Ascalon, promising to keep it safe. He then takes back the Ultimatrix and presents Ben with a new official Omnitrix, no longer a prototype as it has always been. He asks Ben to keep doing what's right and maybe someday finally unlock the master control for real, and that everyone is Ben 10. DNAlien took Ben to the edge, but here's the thing about Ben Tennyson: even with the ultimate power in the galaxy, he's still a 16-year-old who wants chili fries and a nap. So get ready for a faster, wilder, somehow even crazier ride, because this is Ben 10, Omniverse. Let's get into it. The opening episode of Season 1 is titled The More Things Change Part 1. The pilot launches with an 11-year-old Ben as feedback squaring off against a mechamorph called Malware. Ben shifts into feedback and takes down Malware with ease, but something tells me this isn't the last we'll see of Malware. A self-inflicted defeat. Those don't come along often. 5 years later, Ben, Kevin and Gwen wrap up a battle with Zombozo. Gwen and Kevin inform Ben that they're relocating away from Bellwood, since Gwen skipped several grades to go to college. Ben is bummed out but commits to battling villains on his own. Ben checks in with Grandpa Max at the secret Plumber headquarters, but an alert sounds before they can catch up. Ben tracks the disturbance and encounters Crabdozer. He attempts to become Humongosaur to handle it, but Spider Monkey comes out instead. Even heroes get frustrated by software updates. Following the fight, a small alien named Pakmar alerts Ben to a gang shaking down alien-owned shops. Ben tries going undercover to bust the alien trio but draws way too much attention as Cannonbolt. Ben is overwhelmed in the 3 against 1 brawl, but Rook, a plumber dispatched by Max and Ben's new partner, jumps in to help even the odds. Rook is very new to this and absurdly by the book, so he grates on Ben immediately. Ben makes clear he has no interest in a partner, but Rook tags along anyway. Together they neutralize the bomb, though the alien gang slips away. Ben and Rook pursue them and uncover a hidden city called Undertown. Meanwhile, Kyber, a mercenary who crowned himself the galaxy's greatest hunter, has been watching everything from a distance, in the creepiest way possible. He unleashes his pet on Ben and Rook. The second episode of this two-parter, The More Things Change Part 2, picks up right inside Undertown. Ben repeats to Rook that they are absolutely not partners. While they chase the alien gang, Kyber tracks Ben using his pet through an underground transit system. Not exactly man's best friend. Ben wants to sightsee in the cool underground city, but Rook insists they press forward with investigating the gang terrorizing the area. Ben isn't overly concerned. He says the big villain will inevitably send his minions after him sooner or later. Kyber's pet transforms into Bug Lizard and attacks Ben in the marketplace. They exchange blows for a bit, but Kyber calls Bug Lizard back the moment he spots Rook. Rook and Ben head to an alien bar that Bubble Helmet is known to frequent. Ben morphs into Terraspin, flooding the bar with harmless non-toxic air. Bubble Helmet promises to talk when he can breathe again. Rook hands back his helmet and Bubble Helmet bolts. Ben is irritated that Rook fell for such a transparent trick, but Rook points out that tailing him will lead them straight to the boss. They soon locate Cypher. Siphon. Siphon has been running a mob-style protection scheme and intimidating local businesses, and now he's eyeing expansion to the surface. Siphon's goons charge at Ben and Rook. Ben becomes Armadillo and he and Rook handle the thugs. Break it up everyone. Even better. I can feel a partnership developing. Siphon takes on Armadillo while Kyber deploys Bug Lizard to end things. Ben shifts into Shock Squatch while Rook battles Siphon. Rook even lands a pretty solid one-liner. Ben and Rook claim victory, but Bug Blizzard escapes behind a cloud of gas. Siphon and his crew are rounded up and transported by the plumbers. Grandpa Max tells Ben he doesn't have to have a partner. He simply thought Ben was ready to step into a mentorship role. Rook brings them chili fries to share, and that settles it more than anything else could. Chili fries are Ben's ultimate weakness and he devours them instantly. Moving on, episode 4 of season 1 is titled Trouble Helix. Kyber the Huntsman infiltrates Plumber HQ and slips a device into the holographic display, which begins playing an old video. I delivered the footage shows that 5 years prior, Max asked Azimuth to help with Ben's malfunctioning Omnitrix. Azimuth makes short work of it. Max steps away briefly to speak with Azimuth about adult matters, much to the kid's annoyance. Outside, something crash lands into a nearby swamp. Ben transforms into Feedback to check it out. Let's hope so, Ben. Feedback clashes with the intruder in the swamp, which turns out to be a Mechamorph. Feedback changes to 4 arms, and the Mechamorph blasts 4 arms through the tower. Azimuth identifies the Mechamorph as Malware and tells him the technology he's after isn't finished. Malware steals the incomplete Helix technology and abducts Albedo before vanishing. Max, Ben and Azimuth board the skipper and fly toward Galvan B's moon. En route, Azimuth explains that using the Helix they terraformed Galvan B, which gave rise to the Galvanic Mechamorphs. The Mechamorphs established a peaceful society. When Azimuth deactivated the Helix, Malware was created, corrupted and unfinished. Yeah, maybe next time don't accidentally wipe out an entire species shortly after creating them. Azimuth says he's working on a fix, but if it's mishandled, the result could be a catastrophic explosion, and Malware is definitely not the careful type. Ben becomes Heat Blast to battle Malware. Albedo completes the Helix work, and Malware absorbs its energy, becoming a massive red Mechamorph. Malware declares he will upgrade himself further using Ben's Omnitrix. Ben transforms into Cannonbolt, shielding Azimuth and Max from laser fire. They fight with Malware, making a grab for the Omnitrix. Ben shifts into Diamond Head, encasing Malware in crystal. Don't you ever tire of being mistaken? Back in present time, Kyber copies and pockets the video before slipping out of HQ undetected. Well, hopefully that guy doesn't have any sinister agenda. The next episode we're covering is episode 7, So Long. 3 missiles descend from orbit, anchoring the planet to the Quintilian ship. Ben and Rook investigate the ship, where they encounter the Vriedel brothers. A bit much. Apparently, the Vriedels blew up the Plumber Academy, forcing Rook to complete his final exam in a trailer. Still seems excessive. They bump into Argit, an old contact of Kevin's and something of a long-time acquaintance. Argit is equally surprised to see Ben. Argit has the Annihilag, a legendary doomsday device that may or may not obliterate the universe upon detonation. That's one terrifying coin toss. Before they can dig into it further, an Incursion warship locks onto the Quintilian vessel. Ben, Rook and the Vriedel brothers eliminate Incursion soldiers, and Ben confronts their commander, Emperor Milius. Ben becomes NRG, melting the Incursion's weapons. Argit storms in, furious at Milius for going back on a deal to purchase the Annihilag from him. NRG demands Argit surrender the device, but Argit claims he already handed it to the Vriedel brothers, who are already headed back to Earth. This is 100% on you, buddy. Ben and everyone else land back on Earth. Argit dives for the Doomsday device, which gets chaotically tossed around and set off. Ben transforms into Alien X as the universe tears apart, enabling him to reverse everything. But before Alien X can act, he must reach consensus with Bellicus and Serena. Alien X rebuilds the universe following a brief round of bickering. Yeah, Ben probably sounds completely unhinged retelling that one. Rook and Argit think Ben suffered a stress-induced hallucination. Ben is completely convinced he created the universe, pointing out that his go-to grape smoothie tastes subtly different now. Up next, we have the season 1 finale 2-parter of Predators and Prey. Ben and Rook are having a blast at the arcade when Crabdozer, a transformed version of Kyber's pet, rudely crashes the fun. Ben tries once more to shift into Human Gosaur, but gets Stinkfly instead. He cycles through a bunch of alien forms, but Kyber's pet dominates him as a predator every single time. Later, Rook observes that Kyber's pet was able to transform based on Ben's vulnerabilities, and it carried a device resembling the Omnitrix, only red. Sure, Ben, never mind the chaos it causes along the way. Ben and Rook head to Undertown to dig deeper and soon clash over tactics, or more accurately, Ben's complete absence of any. Rook, fed up, walks off the job, leaving Ben to poke around Undertown on his own. In a flashback, we see Malware inside Dr. Psychobos' lair. He wants Psychobos to build a rival Omnitrix. Back in the present, Psychobos is talking to Kyber, confirming he needs Ben's DNA. Ben lures Kyber's pet using an alien DNAlien dog whistle from Pakmar's pet store and promptly gets attacked. Ben reaches for the Omnitrix, but it's recharging, so he takes off on his hoverboard instead. Is that really the right phrase in this context? Ben weaves around before transforming into Crash Hopper. Kyber's pet shifts into Musculator, taking him apart effortlessly. Struggle all you like. There's a predator matched to every kind of prey. Ben cycles through several aliens, but Kyber's pet responds with the correct predator every time. He tries once more for Humongosaur, no luck. He becomes Ball Weevil, which Kyber's pet counters as Terrorantula. Ball Weevil shoots through a sewer pipe onto the street, and Ben is silently hoping Rook shows up right about now. During the scuffle, the Omnitrix times out, reverting Ball Weevil to Ben. He collapses and Kyber finally snares his quarry. Now in the second half of this two-parter, Ben is being held captive by Kyber, the huntsman, who rudely slices up his hoodie. Somehow doubt Ben's getting a replacement out of this. Kyber reveals he's been collaborating with Dr. Sikobos and Malware to build an Omnitrix duplicate called the Nematrix, which would allow his pet to transform into the predators of Ben's aliens. For 5 years, Kyber has hunted predators across the galaxy to acquire their DNA, turbocharging the Nematrix. Still irritated about the hoodie, Ben taunts Kyber for taking this long to catch him. While Kyber is occupied with the taunt, Ben uses his blade to cut himself loose and transform into Humongosaur, or rather Wrath. Wrath takes on Kyber's dog, and then Kyber himself. Kyber is seconds away from severing Ben's Omnitrix arm when Rook arrives. Turns out they were never actually fighting. That was all a ruse to throw Kyber off. Kyber whistles to his dog, which becomes Crabdozer and slams Ben into a wall. Ben shifts into Heat Blast before getting chomped on and spat out by Crabdozer. Absolute revolting. Ben becomes Armadillo. Kyber's dog counters with Ben's Predator every single time. Exhausting for everyone involved. During a rooftop confrontation, Ben finally shifts into Humongosaur. We waited 10 episodes for this moment. Humongosaur battles Tyrannopid and nearly comes out ahead, then accidentally transforms into grey matter. Just small and brainy enough to pinch a nerve cluster on Tyrannopid, knocking it out cold. Rook isn't doing so great in his fight with Kyber. Kyber is milliseconds from the finishing blow when Ben swoops in as a big chill, icing the villain and rescuing his partner. They escape and Kyber's ship goes down, but Kyber and his pet survive. Malware gives orders to recapture Ben, leaving us with a cliffhanger closing out Season 1. Kicking off Season 2, we have the episode Outbreak. It opens at Dr. Sikobos' lair as he struggles to stabilize the Nematrix, which keeps glitching and triggering uncontrolled transformations. Kyber volunteers to go after Ben again, but Sikobos waves him off. Very true. Even broken clocks hit twice a day. Meanwhile, Rook and Ben are doing drills at the Plumber base. Max and Rook believe Ben needs to practice without the Omnitrix, just in case it goes offline. Ben is confident that'll never happen. Dr. Sikobos, along with his mechanical snakes, infiltrates the base and fights the plumbers. Sikobos rips a component from the Omnitrix before making his exit. The Omnitrix destabilizes again, releasing a burst of energy that transforms Rook and the imprisoned plumbers, allowing them to bust out of their cells. There you go, Ben. Called it. Siphon, now mutated into a Pionite hybrid, broadcasts a message threatening to drag all of Bellwood into the null void unless his crew is freed. Bluekick and Reba work on the Omnitrix without success, accidentally transforming Ben into a yellow blob called the Worst. That nickname is probably not helping anyone's confidence. Bluekick and Reba finally patch the Omnitrix. The Worst reverts to Ben and everyone else returns to normal. Ben shifts into Kickin' Hawk, dismantling the bad guys with ease. Back aboard the ship, Dr. Sikobos installs the stolen Omnitrix fragment into the Nematrix. Malware is frustrated the Doctor didn't stop Ben for good, but Sikobos clarifies that their true target is Azimuth. Next up in Many Happy Returns, Gwen and Kevin show up unannounced to visit Ben and head to Mr. Smoothie to hang out. Kevin tells Ben he needs to keep a low profile, but they're interrupted by a ship that obliterates Kevin's car and nearly takes out Gwen. Good thing your girlfriend can hold her own with a potent mana shield, right, Kevin? Rook rolls up in the proto truck and they get into a high-speed aerial pursuit. Ben shifts into blocks and grounds the ship, hurling it down before the team makes their getaway. Kevin repeats that he needs to stay hidden. Ben takes the group down into Undertown. The earlier ship returns. A Tetramand named Princess Looma Redwind emerges alongside Argit, declaring she has arrived to collect her husband to be Kevin Levin, still less painful than a regular heartbreak. The heroes retreat through a sewer tunnel and Kevin admits he promised Looma his hand in marriage in exchange for a piece of technology. They said there's no way an outsider could do it. Looma catches up and brawls with Kevin and Rook. Ben shifts into XLR8 and Gwen unleashes her Anodite form. Just then a massive Tetramand warship appears overhead. Looma's father, Warlord Gar Redwind, threatens to raise the entire planet unless Kevin is handed over to marry his daughter. Tetramand soldiers assemble a makeshift wedding chapel. Ben then shifts into Crash Hopper and challenges Looma to a duel. Looma trounces Crash Hopper, then Clockwork, then Shock Squatch. Ben keeps going glowing and shifts into 4 arms, emerging from the battle victorious. The Tetramans inform Ben that by their customs, this means he must marry Looma. Kevin and Gwen slip away quietly. The Tetramans depart, giving Ben 3 years to prepare for the ceremony. Ben and Rook are headed to the old Bellwood Days festival for a public appearance. Sort of. Fame is complicated, Ben. Before the event really begins, Kyber's pet, aka Bug Lizard, crashes in. Ben becomes heat blast before being knocked around by Crabdozer. Ben takes on Crabdozer turned Slamworm before the creature shifts again into Hypnotic. This thing is matching me alien for alien in real time. It nearly puts Ben under as Big Chill, but he snaps out of it. Flashback time. 11-year-old Ben and Gwen are with Grandpa Max heading to Mount Rushmore, also a fully operational Plumber base. Max shows the kids a captured Psycholeopteran, the same predatory species as Hypnotic. An alarm blares. Malware launches an attack on the Plumber base, but Max quickly neutralizes it with a tachyon cannon, or so it seemed. Malware reconstitutes, absorbing the tachyon cannon. Ben becomes feedback and defeats Malware. While they fight, Kyber slips in unnoticed and extracts a DNA sample from the Psycholeopteran, bringing us back to the present where Ben realizes his enemies have been harvesting DNA from predators to fine-tune the Omnitrix. Hypnotic pulls Big Chill into a trance, and Ben envisions himself as a celebrated hero, but he works his way out of it, because fame and recognition aren't actually what being a hero means. Ben figures out the entire fight has been a distraction to pull them away from the proto-truck, erasing its memory core. Ben becomes Humongosaur to confront Malware, but Malware slips away while Ben is busy saving children on a runaway bus. Later, a kid approaches Ben to thank him for saving his life. Next up is episode 9 of season 2, Store 23. Max and Ben are battling Liam, the enormous chicken alien from Siphon's gang. Ben gets distracted. Next time, try Showbiz Ben. Max scolds Ben for clowning around. Ben recruits Bluekick and Reber to help locate the 23rd Mr. Smoothie location, which keeps materializing and vanishing in front of them. Inside, they find Professor Hoaxstar, who is attempting to build a Mr. Smoothie that simultaneously exists in every dimension, and now they've been teleported to an alternate universe. A commotion breaks out beyond the door, and Ben steps out to investigate. This universe has a recognizable looking hero, a younger, wealthier Ben who goes by the name Ben23. The two Bens introduce themselves and immediately agree this is incredibly cool. Ben and Ben23 visit Mr. Gyros, where Ben23 is swarmed by adoring fans. Ben is clearly envious. He receives a message on his Omnitrix from Max, which reveals to Ben23 that in his universe, Grandpa Max passed away. 77 fires a missile at both Bens. A fight breaks out and 77 calls in reinforcements. Ben becomes Heat Blast and Ben23 becomes Electric Yeti, so they can go head to head. They win together. Ben23 discovers Azimuth23 inside a robotic suit and nearly attacks him, but Ben intervenes. Ben23 asks Ben how he can tell good aliens from bad ones. Ben tells his interdimensional counterpart that Azimuth23 gives the same kind of wisdom Grandpa Max once gave, and that's worth trusting. Ben makes it back to his own universe and wraps Grandpa Max in a hug. Sometimes a firm but caring word from someone who loves you is exactly the reset you need. To open season 3, we have the two-parter Showdown. On Galvan Prime, Dr. Psychobos, Kyber and Malware lift a DNA sample from an omnivoracious skeleton. Just the villains casually snatching genetics from the most dangerous predator ever catalogued. No big deal. Meanwhile, Ben and Rook are patrolling Undertown. Rook asks Ben why he never uses feedback anymore, but Ben shuts it down. Back on Galvan Prime, Asmus is confronted by Psychobos, Malware and Kyber, who boast about engineering the Omnitrix. Sure, but Asmuth kind of gave you the entire conceptual blueprint by inventing the Omnitrix first. Suddenly, Asmuth teleports Ben as Humongosaur and Rook directly from Undertown onto Galvan Prime, where they face Kyber's pet Omniverse. Ben is nearly swallowed by Hypnotic, but Asmuth completes his new gadget just in the nick of time. Asmuth blows the whistle, and Kyber's pet returns to its base form. You are Asmuth. I genuinely cannot believe I'm standing in front of the greatest intellect in existence. Rook and Kyber have an epic whistle standoff before Asmuth shifts Kyber's pet into Vishtopus, the natural predator of Dr. Psychobos. Ben pieces together that Malware is the one powering the villains behind the scenes. Asmuth says he doesn't want a repeat of what happened with feedback, which prompts Rook to push again for the full story. Flashback time. Ben admits that feedback was his primary alien for years, until one confrontation with Malware went badly wrong. Ben battled Malware as feedback, but Malware ripped the alien DNA straight from the Omnitrix and obliterated it. Punch at Malware that triggered a massive explosion. Everyone thought it was over for Malware. They were wrong. Ben carries the guilt of believing the whole thing is his doing. Dr. Psychobos is arrested and Kyber's pet is confiscated, but the Omnitrix and Kyber are both unaccounted for, and Galvan B has suddenly been reduced to rubble. That's not a good sign. The second half of Showdown begins just 5 minutes before the destruction of Galvan B. Several galvanic mechamorphs attempt to stop Malware, but he blows past them. Malware locates a helix and absorbs its power, obliterating Galvan B. Back on Galvan Prime, Ben, Rook, and Azimuth are assessing the damage from the explosion. Debris begins raining from the sky. Azimuth clarifies these aren't ordinary rocks. They're fragments of malware grade. Nobody has a solution, not even the scientist who created malware to begin with. Azimuth attempts to appeal to malware, offering an alliance, but he's not interested. His goal is the total domination of Galvan Prime. Malware attacks. Ben transforms into Humongosaur to fight back. Malware seizes Humongosaur and begins absorbing him. Max flies in on a Plumber vessel, blasting Malware just in time to free Ben, Rook, and Azimuth. The ship clears the area and the team escapes. Azimuth explains that he designed Galvan Prime with layered firewalls to prevent viral incursions like the one Malware is attempting. If the firewalls are engaged, Malware can't compromise the core. He just needs Ben and Kevin to keep Malware occupied for a bit. Back on the surface, Ben takes on Malware as Waybig while Kevin battles Kyber's pet. Kevin's looking good. Giant Malware and Waybig face each other. Waybig seems to be managing until Malware liquefies and surges from beneath the ground, immobilizing Waybig. Blue Kick and Reba complete the firewall just barely in time, stopping Malware from penetrating the core. Guys, we're almost completely out of time. Relax, we're already done. Well, Malware engulfs Waybig entirely, absorbing him into his body. Ben is trapped inside Malware, flickering in and out of consciousness. He catches a glimpse of his 11-year-old self, still grieving the loss of feedback. Azimuth tells him that setbacks are opportunities to learn. Present day Ben gets a chance to speak to his younger self, telling him that he did take something from the experience, and most critically, he learned how to forgive himself. Ben reaches out to shake his younger self's hand before erupting from within Malware as his old companion Feedback. Suddenly, hundreds of galvanic mechamorphs pour from the sky, striking Feedback and reducing him to his natural size. Feedback plugs into the helix, drawing on its energy to destroy Malware, for real this time. Up next is the two-part of the Frogs of War. The Incursions are closing in on planet Earth at Plumber HQ. Max informs Ben and Rook that the Incursions have the planet encircled and are readying for invasion. Civilians are being whipped into panic by Will Harang. Max urges Ben to speak publicly and reassure people. As a celebrity hero, they're more likely to trust him. Well, Max was off on that one. Ben nervously fidgets with his Omnitrix and accidentally triggers the randomizer. He cycles through Waybig energy and water hazard, causing widespread property damage and terror among the crowd. In space, Emperor Milius is receiving support from Dr. Sikobos. The Incursions shatter the planetary shields. Ben manages to take down several of them as Astrodactyl and Wrath before Rook pulls him out of the air midway through. They fall back to base, where the Plumbers are finalizing a counter-offensive. Max orders Ben to stand down until the randomizer can be disabled. Ben ignores the order and climbs onto Rook's ship. Their ship collides with Emperor Milius's vessel, and Ben as Nanomech and Forearm sweeps through dozens of Incursions alongside Rook. But Ben's Omnitrix is still erratic, cycling him out of any given alien form after only a few minutes. Ben gets solid hits in as Big Chill, Fast Track, Humongosaur, and Crash Hopper before the ship goes down over Earth. Totally under control, Ben. Outside on the ground, Max and Aronicus face each other with their armies lined up. Dr. Psychobos hits a switch, unleashing hordes of mutated Tokostar throughout the planet. To protect the people of Earth, Ben reluctantly surrenders. Will Harang announces that the Incursions have seized the planet and brags that Ben Tennyson has been launched into space. The next episode is the second half of the Frogs of War. Ben has been exiled from Earth. Emperor Milius has seized control. Will Harang, however, couldn't be happier about it. Yeah, the guys bombing the White House are probably not the heroes here. Milius has consolidated his hold over the planet with a way bad army. Meanwhile, Gwen, Kevin, Rook, Orgit and Blue Kick are trying to mount a resistance, making little headway. Orgit floats the idea of going for Dr. Psychobos since he's the one controlling the Waybads. The team gathers outside Psychobos' convoy to intercept it, but it's an ambush. Orgit has already cut a side deal with Aronicus to sell out his allies and the heroes are captured. And that's the lesson on trusting shady intermediaries. A different Incursion eliminates Aronicus and the others before signaling the rest to follow. This Incursion introduces himself as Bullfrag and leads them to a starship where they can escape. Bullfrag tells the group he knows how to take down Psychobos and liberate the Plumbers. Bullfrag gets the team inside the base, letting Rook override the security network. The Plumbers are liberated, Max included. Bullfrag calls Max Grandpa, which is what finally blows his cover. It's Ben, operating undercover the whole time. Gwen smirks, she already knew. Ben explains that Azimuth retrieved him from the escape pod and repaired his Omnitrix, adding Incursion DNA so he could blend in with Aronicus' forces. Rook meanwhile neutralizes Psychobos, but the Waybads keep coming. Milius, enraged that Ben has returned, orders his warship to engage. This situation is rapidly escalating. Rook emerges with a null void projector, banishing the Waybads to a separate dimension. This gives Waybig the opening to hit Milius' ship with a cosmic ray, sending it crashing down. Ben, Gwen Ben, Kevin, and Max confront the Emperor with Aronicus and Psychobos both in restraints. The group moves to arrest Milius, but Aronicus snaps her cuffs, declaring this was her orchestrated plan from the beginning. She knew Ben would escape and topple her father, clearing the way for her own regime. Aronicus agrees to stand down her army in exchange for her father's permanent imprisonment. Emperor Milius is simultaneously proud and crushed. Opening season 4 is the episode Food Around the Corner. A ship full of flea-like aliens called the Ecoplectoid descend onto an unknown planet and begin drilling operations. Only the planet is actually Ben as Gravatak. He's there to broker a peace deal between the Apoplexians and the Lowadans. The summit begins, and both factions immediately start sniping at each other and threatening hostilities. Gravatak manages to keep everyone calm, but the drilling and construction happening on his surface is making him seriously irritated. Rook is reduced to microscopic size and latches onto Gravatak. Rook approaches the Ecoplectoid and politely asks them to halt operations. They're completely uninterested and plan to drill straight to Gravatak's core, which would kill Ben. Rook fights off several Ecoplectoid workers who retaliate with grenades. This causes visible disruption in the conference above. Can someone get this guy an antihistamine? Rook contacts Ben, alerting him that an internal explosion could happen any moment. Ben tries to exit, but Lewoda's leader Pripyatogen B locks the remaining delegates inside before fleeing. Rook finally pinpoints the Omnitrix and disables it, reverting Gravatak back to Ben. Ben shifts into jury rig, slipping out of the sealed room. Ben becomes Wrath and thoroughly dismantles Pripyatogen B with a clutch assist from Rook, who destroys Pripyatogen B's sonic emitter. At Burger Shack, both delegations finally sign a peace agreement. The next season 4 episode 6 is titled Mud is Thicker Than Water. It opens with a flashback from 5 years ago featuring Kevin in the Null Void with Argit, where a robot named Otto is supposedly helping them escape, or so they assumed. Has anyone taught you guys about dangerous robot strangers? Back in the present, Kevin and Rook are visiting the planet Cholera, home of the Tetramans. They're attending the Cholera Auto show when they run into Argit, who then introduces them to Otto. Kevin and Argit move to confront him, but Otto's violent offenders get in between. Otto protests his innocence, insisting he tried to pull them out of the Null Void, but Kevin isn't buying a word of it. The offenders attack. Rook calls Ben for backup, but the signal drops. Rook and metal-plated Kevin fight the offenders until they're arrested. Argit wisely keeps his distance from the brawl. Volodka welcomes Kevin, Rook and Argit, declaring them honored guests at the auto show. Otto and the violent offenders then break out of lockup using stolen vehicles. Kevin and Rook leap onto a Tetraman mount to pursue. Otto's gang blasts through the main gates. Argit scoops up Kevin and Rook in the Prototruk. They chase Otto and ultimately arrest the group again. But before anyone can celebrate, the Prototruk merges with Otto, assembling into an enormous mechanical titan. Significantly cooler if I weren't pretty sure he's about to kill everyone. Ben teleports to the scene and becomes Upgrade, transforming Kevin's car into a massive galvanic mechamorph robot. An incredible fight breaks out and Ben brings down Otto. Since Kevin's car was totaled, Volodgar gives him one of his own as a reward. Next is an episode called The Ultimate Heist. Ben and Rook are in Undertown hunting for Inspector 13, who is stockpiling illegal alien tech. Ben gets sidetracked almost immediately. Never too early to shop ahead, Rook. They run into Argit, who's been enjoying a serious reputation boost following the Incursian invasion. Argit escorts Ben and Rook to his office, where Ben fills him in on the hunt for Inspector 13. Argit agrees to help them penetrate his warehouse and locate him, provided he gets to keep the legal weapons for resale. Remarkably, Ben agrees. Meanwhile, Albedo, Ben's evil mirror image, is banging on the door of his cell at Plumber HQ, insisting that he is the real Ben Tennyson. Back in Undertown, Argit, Rook, and the Albedo disguised as Ben breach the warehouse. The Techodon robots are triggered and a fight kicks off. Things go well, right up until Albedo transforms into Wildvine and snares all of them. All those powers, and he still requires a wig and colored contacts for a costume. Albedo reveals he has an inside man at the Plumber base who engineered his swap with the real Ben. Albedo shifts into negative Humongoso to battle Inspector 13. He's promptly swarmed by Techodon robots. Albedo transforms into negative Big Chill, encasing Inspector 13 in ice. Albedo lifts the polymorphic crystal 2, which he says will unlock ultimate power. Ben as Armadillo arrives right in time to take on Albedo. The two Bens clash over the polymorphic crystal, but Albedo grabs it, enabling ultimate transformations. He dismantles Ben using Ultimate Humongosaur, Ultimate Echo, and Ultimate Spider Monkey, and Ben can't keep up. I can assume Ultimate Alien forms. Luckily, Argit catches Albedo off guard with his quills, and Albedo drops unconscious. Inspector 13 is arrested, but Albedo is snatched by an unidentified vessel, which turns out to belong to Kyber. Kyber is irritated by Albedo's defeat, but encouraged by the fact that he can now take ultimate forms. Nobody likes a know-it-all, guys. Up next is an episode titled A Fistful of Brains. Ben and Rook are pursuing Albedo through Undertown when Ben accidentally boards his expertly disguised spacecraft. Ben is transported to Kyber's hunting preserve, where he's immediately set upon by a slamworm and a crab dozer. Before long, Ben comes face to face with Kyber and his newest pet Panuncian. Kyber proposes a game. He's going to hunt Ben until Ben simply cannot run anymore. Ben becomes Ditto. Kyber isn't rattled in the slightest and gives his Panuncian a very unsettling pat. Come on, Kyber, at least make it fair. Ditto splits off in multiple directions, with each copy chased by Panuncian duplicates through snowfields, deserts and underground passages. Eventually they're boxed in, and Kyber whistles to transform his pet's clones into every Nemetrix predator simultaneously. Okay, that's beyond unfair. Rook and Max meanwhile are bouncing between planets trying to trace Ben's DNA signal, but Albedo has sent them on a completely fabricated trail, a wild Ben chase as it were. Ben shifts into Astrodactyl, soaring into the sky before slamming into an invisible ceiling. Astrodactyl punches through it and discovers Albedo waiting above. Ben tells Albedo to back off, but Albedo wants payback for his incarceration. Ben shifts into Good Trot, Upchuck, Goop and Shock Squatch, but he can't match Ultimate Albedo. Ben's gotta be more precise with his phrasing. Rook and Max finally arrive, or crash land to be precise, while Ben is tangling with Ultimate Humongosaur. Ben becomes feedback, redirecting Albedo's missiles straight back at him and capturing him. Just as they're about to celebrate, Kyber reveals they have Azimuth in custody. The next episode is the follow-up for A Few Brains More. Kyber and Ultimate Albedo have captured Azimuth, siphoning the intelligence from his mind and compressing it into a glowing green orb. The heroes fight desperately for control of the orb and Azimuth himself before breaking free with both. Azimuth isn't quite himself though. Don't even entertain that thought. Then Kyber and Albedo as negative Octiguana give chase, demanding the brain be returned. Ben and Azimuth find an isolated room, but Ben accidentally triggers a self-destruct. In the blast, the heroes bolt into the proto-truck. Albedo and Kyber attack from their vessel, knocking out the proto-truck's propulsion. Applause. Ben becomes Grav Attack, but Albedo counters him as negative Armadillo and then negative Grav Attack. Kevin and Gwen take on Kyber, cornering him, but Kyber converts his pet into an ultimate Panuncian. Gwen holds the enemy forces at bay with her force field, and Azimuth accidentally turns Ben into Pesky Dust. Remarkably, Kyber is absolutely terrified of Pesky Dust. Pesky Dust puts Kyber to sleep and explores his dreamscape. Kyber just wants family and acknowledgement. Pesky Dust determines that Albedo is in a lab somewhere nearby. Ben becomes water hazard to drench the ultimate Panuncian. Buying Kevin the window he needs to destroy the Nemetrix. The heroes trace their way to Billion's tower. Ultimate Albedo is already uploading Azimuth's enhanced intellect into his own brain. He snares Ben and the group before spiraling into an existential breakdown. Crushed by his own cosmic insignificance, Albedo concludes that all his efforts are meaningless. While he's deep in his monologue, Azimuth topples onto Ben's Omnitrix. Ben becomes Blocks, enabling him to flip a switch that flushes Albedo's upgraded intelligence back out. My obsession with Azimuth, it isn't merely evil. At its core, it's futile. Albedo, stripped of his extra intellect, reverts to Ultimate Humongosaur and battles Ben, who transforms into a new Aliens. Atomix battles Ultimate Spider Monkey, finishing it with a move called Nuclear Winner. It is genuinely spectacular. The team restores Azimuth's intellect to its proper owner. Azimuth, irritated, scolds Ben for hammering the Omnitrix so recklessly. That's what keeps triggering the randomizer. He remaps Albedo's Ultimatrix before vanishing. Albedo is arrested, but Kyber disappears. The Ultimatrix begins shouting out, reverting Albedo to his 11-year-old Ben appearance. Childhood is supposed to feel different from this opening season 5 is mystery, incorporeal. Ben, Rook and Kevin are visiting university. Frieden University. Gwen has been excelling, taking on advanced coursework, protecting campus as Lucky Girl and going by her full name, Gwendolyn. Gwen and her friend Dante leave for class, but a rock golem crashes in. Rook and Ben as Jury Rig battle the creature, but the Omnitrix gets struck and damaged in the confrontation. Now it's only showing Ghost Freak's icon. Kevin, Rook and Ben trail the golem into a lecture hall. Professor Zeske delivers a lecture on art history, mentioning one of the charms of Bezel. After class, more rock monsters emerge. Ben fights alongside Rook and Gwen as Lucky Girl. Gwen still doesn't get proper credit. The heroes confront Zeske. Ben accuses her of using charm of Bezel, but Dante lets out a sinister laugh from behind them, grabs the charm and attacks. Dante drags Gwen into the basement, dropping the act entirely. He's Darkstar. Rook blows the door open with his proto tool, and a battle erupts between the heroes and the rock army. Darkstar drains the mana from his own stone soldiers, reverting himself to Michael Morningstar form. Personally, I find attempted villains considerably less charming regardless of their appearance. Ben possesses Michael as Ghost Freak, using his body to release Gwen. Michael Darkstar is arrested, but the arresting officer is actually Charmcaster, allowing uses Scare to escape from the Ledgerdomain. Next is an American Ben Wolf in London. It opens with Kai and Wes Green exploring the London sewers before being interrupted by Forever King Dr. Joseph Chadwick and his knights, who steal the formula and capture Wes. Kai escapes and reaches out to Ben for backup. Ben and Rook touch down in London, though Ben insists Rook didn't need to come along. Ben's got feelings. The pair connect with Kai, who briefs them on the Forever Knight stealing her grandfather to help locate a sword, eventually leading them to Highgate Cemetery. At the cemetery, the Red Knights attack. Rook and Forearms push them back, buying Kai time to run, only for her to run directly into Chadwick, who has Wes in his grip. Chadwick reveals they're searching for Excalibur, which will seal off Earth from alien contact and restore the Forever Knights as Earth's rightful ruling class. Chadwick brings them to a rooftop overlooking Big Ben, where they invoke a stone formation. Ben attempts to fly down and intervene, but transforms into Blitzwolfer instead. A brawl erupts as the group fights to reach the sword, and Ben even pulls off a smooth save for Kai. At the stone formation, Chadwick opens the passage using a signet ring. He consumes the Mr. Hyde formula, mutating into a gorilla-like beast, but he still can't pull the sword free. Chadwick compels Ben to attempt it, but he can't do it either. Applause enraged, Chadwick orders his knights to finish off Ben and the team, and an all-out fight breaks out. The chamber floods as the battle damages the infrastructure, but Kai discovers a floor exit and they all escape safely. Rook, Ben, Wes, and Kai share farewells on the bridge. Ben even earns a cheek kiss. The next episode is Animo Crackers. It opens at Plumber HQ, where Dr. Animo is monologuing to his stuffed animals. He appears genuinely unhinged until one of the stuffed animals answers him. The toy is directing their escape, but they accidentally set off alarms, alerting the Plumber garrison. Animo and his toy blast their way toward the exit, but they're intercepted by Ben, Rook, and Magister Patel. The toy keeps Animo grounded, predicting that Ben will try to shift into human Gosor but will end up as Upgrade instead. Lucky call. Following the toy's guidance, Animo hurls a device at Ben, giving them the window to escape via elevator. Animo and the toy crash land the elevator into a forest clearing. Animo is then approached by a primate-like creature who identifies himself as a version of Animo from the future. Future Animo recruits his earlier self to steal a mutant DNA project from a government facility, but they're cut off by Spanner. Rook and Ben catch up, and the pursuit resumes. Rook's quarry mutates some squirrels into monsters and sicks them on Rook. Future Animo busts this earlier self free. Spanner, Ben, and Rook regroup. Spanner tells Ben to contact Lieutenant Steel. They find them, along with a mutant frog and a mutant snail being ridden by present and future Animo. Ben shifts into Gutrot, releasing sulfur dioxide followed by nitrous oxide, aka laughing gas. Future Animo apparently has absolutely no sense of humor. Rook observes that even if they defeat him now, he'll simply return from a different future. Spanner recommends making both versions forget the entire day happened. Gutrot deploys a gas compound that triggers short-term memory loss, solving the problem neatly. Spanner escorts future Animo back to his own time period. The next season 5 episode is Rad Monster Party. Ben, Rook, Rad, and Hobble are cruising through space aboard the Lovely Duck when the engines die and the ship crash lands on Undertown. Ben is immediately in love with the place. Everyone looks like a cool monster. Yeah, Ben, maybe pull back the scary face when meeting new residents. The crew explores the town while being shadowed by a Tepco fan. Hobble, Rook, and Rad are suddenly grabbed and wrapped in bandages, until the monster unmasks itself as Ben in disguise. Ben shifts into Wildvine, battling the Tepco fan in front of spectators. But from the crowd's perspective, it looks like Ben is attacking an innocent mummy, and a mob assembles to chase him down. A Loboan plumber named Scott drops in to rescue Ben and agrees to assist in locating his friends, who were most likely taken by Cthulhu. Scout and Ben reach a temple where Rook, Rad, and Hobble are bound in bandages. Cthulhu attacks and Ben puts him down as Crash Hopper. Before the team can return to the Lovely Duck, they are blocked by Z-Scare, Crujo, and Dr. Victor. Ben is a bit dismissive about Z-Scare's name, which fair, stay your ground, ghost freak. Z-Scare says that after escaping the Ledgerdomain, he broke into the Plumber HQ basement, freed Dr. Victor, and had them stow away on the Lovely Duck. They crashed the ship deliberately so Z-Scare could reclaim rule over Undertown as High Ecto Lord. Ben shifts into energy and opens his containment casing. The energy from energy's inner form blinds Z-Scare, but before the heroes can take him into custody, the mob returns, giving Victor and Crujo the window to grab their boss and slip away. Scout calms the mob and hands the heroes the path they need to fix the ship. Looks like these guys will be staying on Undertown just a little longer. Up next is Charmed. Appropriately, Ben and his friends are still stuck on Undertown, and as if that weren't enough, Ben has developed a pimple. Then again, Charmcaster materializing out of nowhere might actually be more alarming. Ben is ready for a fight, but Charmcaster tells them she needs their help taking down Z-Scare. Ben isn't persuaded and asks Rad how long the ship repairs will take, but Rad stonewalls him, still furious about the broken component. Ben, Rook, Charmcaster, and Hobble Hobble reach the town center, sneaking around to stay undetected. Rook tries several remedies for Ben's expanding pimple situation. All of them fail. The group finally arrives at Zscare's castle, where they're immediately set upon by animated pumpkin scarecrows. Only magic can eliminate these, so Charmcaster dismantles dozens of them while Ben as Swampfire carves a path to the castle entrance. The heroes discover a trick mirror and end up in combat with distorted mirror versions of themselves. They shatter their doppelgangers and eventually reach Zscare's chamber. Zscare tosses Charmcaster the Alpha Rune, telling her he already drained it dry and has no further use for it. He then banishes the heroes from the castle. The animated pumpkins swarm again, but Charmcaster turns the Alpha Rune on herself, absorbing her own stone army and redirecting her assault at Rook, Ben and Hobble. She's going to need serious counseling after all this heartbreak. Okay, that is legitimately the coolest thing I've ever seen. Ben transforms into Swampfire again and discovers he can command plant life directly. He orders the pumpkins to turn on Charmcaster instead. Rook launches his collection of pimple remedies at Charmcaster and her armor crumbles. He uses Gwen's spellbook to banish her to the Ledgerdomain. Ben reverts to himself, pimples fully gone, but they're still stranded on Transil. The next episode is The Vampire Strikes Back, and it opens on, you guessed it, Transil. Zscare uses the Alpha Rune's lingering power to revive a Vladat named Lord Transil. Dr. Victor is deeply unhappy about this, given that the Vladats once enslaved his people. Zscare is completely indifferent and resurrects Lord Transil regardless. Meanwhile, Rad has the lovely duck airborne and is pulling away from the planet when Ben's Omnitrix picks up a new DNA signature on Transil. Ben demands Rad turn around and Rad refuses and opens the cargo door, sucking Ben out into space. Rook convinces Rad to circle back with a tempting incentive. That's the lovely duck. Meanwhile, in Zscare's castle, Zscare pitches his new companion on brainwashing the planet's entire population so they can co-rule the universe. The mind-hijacked citizens close in on Ben, successfully brainwashing Rook, Rad and Scout. Hobble, however, is immune. His mucus-coated skin repelled the Corruptorus Gross. Ben scans Lord Transil and shifts into a new alien, Vampire. Vampire fires Corruptorus at Cthulhu, Crujo and Dr. Victor, flipping them to his side before the group escapes with Hobble to pursue Zscare. Right, two can play at that game, I think. Rook, Rad and Scout are fighting the mental override as hard as they can. Points for trying team. Whomper crash lands the lovely duck into the castle walls. Whomper, Victor, Crujo, Hobble and Cthulhu battle Lord Transil, Zscare, Rook, Scout and Rad. The Omnitrix expires, snapping Whomper back to Ben. Victor, no longer under Ben's influence, pursues his own agenda, betraying both Zscare and Lord Transil. Ben becomes Atomix, generating an intense sphere of light that destroys Zscare and liberates everyone from Lord Transil's mental grip. As a precaution, Lord Transil is sealed in a coffin and positioned near the Anur system's sun. The episode wraps with the heroes finally departing the Anur system, quite the extended field trip. Now let's open season 6, episode 1, and then there were none. Ben is rescuing a cat from a tree when his Omnitrix beeps. Hold on, that's just an ordinary watch. Turns out this is an alternate timeline in which Ben never received the Omnitrix. Later, following a soccer game, Kevin shoves Ben and swipes his watch. Ben tells Max that he's tired of the same town and the same routine. That evening, Ben is outside Mr. Smoothie when Bad Ben confronts him. Bad Ben transforms into Ghost Freak and tells Ben he must be eliminated. Charming before long, Bad Ben is joined by Albedo and Benzaro. Watchless Ben is tracked down by Ben Prime, who rescues him and takes him to Professor Paradox. Paradox lays out the concept of the multiverse, pointing out that this is the only Ben who's never even encountered the Omnitrix. Yeah, that'd be a lot to process. Eon and Vilgax arrive to seize No Watch Ben. Their aim is to abduct Bens from across the multiverse and corrupt them. Bad Ben, Albedo, Benzaro, Mad Ben and Nega Ben join the fight. Vilgax argues that No Watch Ben is an unpredictable element who must be destroyed. Paradox teleports in alongside Ben 10,000, Ben 23 and Gwen 10. The ultimate Ben battle begins. Vilgax observes from a nearby rooftop before materializing a Chronosapien time bomb into the fray, one designed to erase every Ben from the multiverse except No Watch Ben. He detonates it and all the Bens begin to fade. As Ben Prime disappears, his Omnitrix lands on No Watch Ben's wrist. Before Vilgax can finish off No Watch Ben, Paradox yanks him into a hidden pocket dimension. Paradox explains to him that he's the last surviving Ben Tennyson in existence, but there is a plan. They're going back to where everything began. The next episode, And Then There Was Ben, continues directly from the previous cliffhanger. Paradox brings No Watch Ben to Vilgax's ship from the original timeline. To repair the damage done to the multiverse, they need to ensure that every event unfolds precisely as it originally did. Time travel is deeply confusing. Using grey matter and cannonbolt, No Watch Ben successfully launches the Omnitrix pod toward Earth, where it lands near 10-year-old Ben Prime. Maybe reconsider touching the strange space object if you don't want it permanently attached to you. Paradox tells No Watch Ben that they need to gather the other heroic Bens for a multiversal showdown against the evil Bens Vilgax and Eon. Paradox begins teleporting them across dimensions, picking up Gwen 10 and Ben 23. The group lands in another universe where they encounter a version of Argit wielding an Omnitrix. No Watch Ben doesn't know Argit at all, smart call. In yet another universe, they find Ben 10,000, who pieces it all together nearly instantly. Next, they locate Ben Prime, who is immediately enthusiastic about an adventure. The group assembles in a pocket dimension before jumping to No Watch Ben's original timeline. Vilgax taunts No Watch Ben, saying he poses zero threat, Omnitrix or not. No Watch Ben transforms into Clockwork, reversing the time bomb's damage and restoring the other Bens. A massive battle erupts between the heroic and villainous Bens. Watch out, scary face. Clockwork sends all the evil Bens back to their respective timelines before returning the Omnitrix to Ben Prime. Ben Prime has Diamond Head, Ben 10,000 as Atomix, Ben 23 as Electric Yeti, Gwen 10 as Gwen collectively dismantle Vilgax. No Watch Ben is the one who lands the decisive blow. Good thing No Watch Ben takes self-defense seriously. All the Bens return to their own timelines and Max arrives with the plumbers to take Vilgax into custody. Ben reflects that even in a timeline without the Omnitrix, his counterpart turned out to be a hero in his own way and heads home. The next episode is Universe vs Tennyson. Ben is venting to Rook about how the new Mr. Smoothie formula has tasted wrong ever since he rebuilt the universe as Alien X. They get pulled into a vehicle pursuit with Fistina. Before they can bring her in, Ben and Rook are halted by a Galvan attorney named Chadsmooth. Chadsmooth informs Ben that because his client wasn't properly Mirandized, she walks free. Several additional criminals have to be released on similar grounds. That's the legal system for you, Ben. During a late-night arrest attempt at Mr. Smoothie, Ben's name is broadcast across space. A celestial sapien named Starbreed arrives to inform Ben that he is facing criminal charges for the unauthorized reconstruction of the universe. Ben pleads not guilty to Judge Domstall, but Domstall says the decision isn't his to make. Instead, quadrillions of aliens watching the proceedings will vote on his fate. Ben reluctantly calls Chadsmooth. Rook is called to testify and is rather too forthcoming with the truth. Well, he did swear to be entirely truthful. Ben has repeatedly demonstrated unfamiliarity with protocol, in addition to an enormous number of other subjects. Starbreed calls Ben to the stand and hands him a Mr. Smoothie, asking whether it tastes different. Ben cracks and admits he was forced to reconstruct the universe after the Annihilak destroyed it. Ben is found guilty. Chadsmooth then pulls out another card, invoking the right to Tetraman trial by combat. Ben shifts into Forearms and then Iguanoid to face a galactic gladiator. It doesn't go well. Ben transforms into Alien X. After some debate with Serena and Bellicus, Alien X encases the gladiator in a swarm of duplicates before sealing him away inside a black hole. Ben is declared the winner and cleared of the charge of rebuilding the universe. Ben grudgingly thanks Chadsmooth for his services. Wrapping up season 6 is the two-parter Weapon LM. Kevin, Argit, and Zed visit Alan on the Albright farm. When a router named Swift crashes through the barn, a fight breaks out. Alan, now in pure blood Pyronite form, battles Swift alongside Kevin and asks where Ben is. Ben and Rook are at Mr. Smoothie when Gwen arrives carrying a letter from Kevin. The letter says Kevin has Alan and needs Gwen to assemble Helen and Manny and deliver them to the Null Void. Stubborn as always, kid. Kevin explains to Alan that they grew up together alongside Helen and Manny, something Alan has zero memory of. In another flashback, Kevin shows Alan that they were subjected to experiments by the Rooters led by Proctor Cervantes. In the Null Void, Kevin infiltrates the Rooter base. Cervantes was counting on Kevin to bring his allies and inadvertently help him get to Ben. Ben arrives as Atomix, Gwen, Rook, Argit, and the Amalgam Kid show up not long after. Kevin is clearly aggravated, having gone to considerable lengths to keep this exact scenario from happening. Don't you know Ben doesn't do orders, Kevin? After everything I did to keep Ben and the Amalgams away from the Rooters, you just deliver them here. Cervantes hits Kevin and the Amalgam Kids with a charge that tests them against Ben. Cervantes then traps Kevin in a containment field for a private conversation. He tells Kevin that everything that's gone wrong can be traced to Ben, and Kevin should have neutralized him long ago. Ben shifts into Alien X and neutralizes the Amalgam Kids and Rooters with ease. Before Alien X can hurt Alan, Kevin steps in. Ben shifts into Kickin' Hawk wanting to fight Cervantes, but ends up brawling with Kevin instead. Kevin sends Kickin' Hawk through the floor and Kickin' Hawk escapes with Gwen, Rook, Zed, and Argit. Cervantes is satisfied. He's reunited Kevin with the Amalgam Kids. Kevin announces that he will now hunt down and destroy Ben Tennyson. The season 6 finale picks up right where the previous episode ended. Ben and his uncorrupted allies are attempting to flee the Null Void when a Waybad attacks. Ben tries to shift into Waybig but gets Ball Weevil instead. instead. Somehow they still manage to escape. Argit guides them to a concealed cave and explains to Ben that Cervantes was a former plumber who spent years specifically training Kevin and the Amalgam kids with the singular purpose of destroying Ben. Frustrated beyond his limits, Ben demands the full story. Okay, snacks, then story time. Argit walks through a flashback showing the Amalgam kids and Kevin attacking Team Tennyson shortly after Ben received the Omnitrix. Kevin inadvertently touches the Omnitrix, mutating into a monstrous, extremely powerful form, but they're still defeated. Cervantes counts this as a complete failure and erases the kids' memories before being willing to try again. The group is strategizing when another way bad interrupts. Gwen shifts into her anodite form, creating a path for them to reach the router base. Kevin tries to cut off Ben's group before they reach the null void projector. He pins down Gutrot and touches the Omnitrix, mutating once more. Ben fights mutated Kevin as Swampfire, Grav Attack, and Feedback. While Rook and Gwen handle the others, the Omnitrix expires and Kevin captures Ben. Kevin hauls Ben to a disruptor chamber designed to annihilate Ben and the Omnitrix permanently. But rather than placing Ben inside, Kevin shoves Cervantes in instead, annihilating his loyalty Neuromatrix and turning the Amalgam kids against the rooters for good. Outside, Max, Magistrata and Magister Patel arrive, stripping the rooters of their plumber credentials and consigning them to permanent null void imprisonment. Ben and his friends decide Burger Shack is the appropriate response. Next, let's open season 7 with Rook Tales. It begins on Revona, where Rook Shar, Rook's younger sister, is preparing to board a ship for the Plumber Academy when Master Kundo intercedes. Shar's mind is made up. This does not stop Kundo from secretly boarding the ship anyway. This guy really has a problem with the plumbers. Back on Earth, Ben and Rook are waiting for Shar to arrive. At least you didn't have to go through an actual airport terminal for this one. Ben, I genuinely don't understand. Like, how did Lucky Girl get an entire fan page? When the ship docks, Shar steps off with Young One, who snuck aboard as well. Does this dimension not have any galactic equivalent of the TSA? Ben and Rook's family are sharing smoothies when Kundo arrives. Basil and Young One fall back in line with him. Kundo strikes first, so Ben shifts into water hazard and they clash. Kundo nearly kills Ben, but Rook deflects the strike with his proto tool, which shatters on impact. Kundo is momentarily distracted by a passing vehicle, giving Ben, Rook, and his siblings the window to retreat to Plumber HQ. Back at HQ, Ben tries to help Young One pry off his base spear unsuccessfully. Rook ventures out to Undertown, scouring for Kundo until Kundo ambushes him. Shar joins the fight, but both are taken out swiftly. Kundo demands they return to their homeworld once they retrieve Young One. Ben and Young One catch the fight footage in Undertown and rush to confront Kundo. Ben shifts into Wildvine, Blocks, and Kick and Hawk to fight, but Kundo overpowers them all with ease. Rook comes to and Young One tosses his brother the repaired proto tool. It deflects Kundo's stone cutter, sending Kundo flying into a chemical vat that converts him into a cyborg. To his amazement, Young One's base spear falls off, giving him the joy of selecting his own new name, Rook Ben. The next episode is the Ballad of Mr. Bauman. It opens with a flashback featuring a very young Ben, already causing property damage at a store before the Omnitrix ever entered his life. Heading home, a meteor crash lands nearby and Bauman witnesses a strange alien calling for assistance. Bauman takes her in, telling her she's in good hands. Exactly 5. 22 years later, Ben and Max are visiting Bauman's shop when Volcanos attacks. Ben's Omnitrix times out, but he and Max subdue Volcanos with a fire extinguisher. Max and Ben locate Bauman in an abandoned mine. He says he's handled Volcanos. Something tells me this isn't the last chapter of that story. Bauman tracks down the alien he once rescued. Her name is Shilane and she is Bauman's partner, who requires Element X to survive. Shilane has been living underwater and can only surface to visit Bauman for one day every 5.22 years. Bauman delivers the Element X, but Volcanus crashes in and snatches both it and Shilane. Ben becomes Diamond Head to fight back, recovering the Element X. But Volcanus stumbles into an iron ore deposit during the clash, triggering a massive explosion. 5.22 more years later, Ben is walking through Undertown when he spots a pair of pickaxe aliens tailing Shilane and Bauman. Before Ben can intervene, he's knocked unconscious and wakes up in a dumpster. Ben shifts into a form to track the couple by Bauman's potent cologne. Bauman and Shilane's brief reunion is disrupted by Volcanos and the pickaxe aliens. He takes Shilane and heads for her ship to seize the Element X. Bauman follows into the mine in scuba gear. Ben shifts into Ripjaws and a battle erupts. Shilane holds off the pickaxe aliens while Ripjaws dismantles Volcanos' suit once more. With the villains down, Bauman announces his underwater gear means he can visit Shilane anytime anytime he wants and proposes a genuinely happy ending. The next episode is Fight at the Museum. Ben is on a museum date with Esther. Well, Esther thought so until Rook showed up, followed shortly by Kai, which probably does a number on the ambience. Didn't you see the email? Oh right. I stopped reading the moment I saw the word museum. Spanner teleports in there to retrieve a mysterious orb. Kai guides everyone to it, a punkak, which was the first artifact she and her grandfather discovered together. Before the group can reach the orb, it's swiped by an alien named Subdora, who can turn completely transparent. Ben shifts into wild mode to track her, but Subdora gets the better of him. Not long after, Ben is saved by Spanner. Subdora gets away, but Ben recovers the orb for Kai. Kai asks Ben and Rook to stay overnight at the museum in case of further trouble. Ben isn't thrilled, but Spanner suggests Ben be considerably kinder to Kai, insisting they're destined for each other. I'll put it in those terms going forward, shouldn't you be a bit more? Subdora sneaks back in, but Ben accidentally dusts her in cheese puff powder, revealing her location. She grabs the orb and bolts. Rook, Spanner and Esther pursue while Ben and Kai are sealed inside the secure room. Esther recovers the orb and they return it. Kai and Ben resume bickering. Spanner urges them to quit fighting, dropping the reveal that he's from the future and they're together in it. Esther is understandably not thrilled, but before anyone can untangle the implications, Exoskull smashes through the wall and demands the orb. Ben battles him as Shock Squatch then Grav attack, but the villains still make off with a hidden artifact from inside it. Kai is devastated and Ben does his genuine best to comfort her. Spanner takes the emptied orb back to the future, ultimately returning the artifact to Kai and Ben 10,000. To close out season 7, there's another two-parter. It's a mad Ben world. Ben is gearing up for a gaming marathon when Ben 23 shows up unannounced, dispatched here for mentorship, which apparently equates to smoothies and video games. I'm going to assume some vegetables were involved somewhere. Ben's Omnitrix signals. It's Rook requesting backup on a Subdora and Exo Skull robbery. Ben Prime battles Subdora as Goop, but Subdora exploits his weakness and slips away with Exo Skull. Subdora and Exo Skull deliver collected points to Maltruant and Dr. Psychopos. The heroes arrive with the Bens fighting the villains as the Worst and Toolbox. Toolbox launches the Worst directly at Exo Skull, triggering a massive explosion. The Bens regain consciousness to find their surroundings in complete ruins. Ben and Ben 23 as Molestash and Kick and Hawk fly into the settlement and find Mad Harang commanding a team of forced laborers. A drill is about to collapse onto the workers, but it's halted by the Bens as Mr. Monkey and Bullfrag. Ben demands to know who's giving the orders. It's Mad Ben, who shifts into Diamond Head and traps the other two Bens. Now Maltruant commends Diamond Head on his work, and Ben cracks what key Maltruant is searching for. He shifts into Clockwork, forcing Mad Ben back to his powerless state and locking him in a time loop. Ben 23 shifts into Techno Bubble, fusing with Clockwork. Honestly beats video games. The Bens locate the key, but Exo Skull attacks, giving Maltruant's allies time to deliver it to him, restoring him to maximum power. Full-powered Maltruant overwhelms Techno Bubble Clockwork effortlessly and deactivates both Omnitrixes. Maltruant announces his intention to restart the Time War and grants Mad Ben permission to deal with the other Bens however he sees fit. Part 2 of It's a Mad Ben world begins with both Bens chained up near Dr. Psychobos. While Mad Rook forces them into labor under Warlord Mad Ben's command, both Omnitrixes are still dead. Dr. Psychobos, who despises this arrangement, says he can fix them if they can get him out. While Ben distracts Mad Rook, Psychobos steals a set of nearby vehicle keys. That night, the unlikely trio breaks out and finds shelter inside a wrecked Mr. Smoothie location. By the next morning, Psychobos announces the Omnitrixes have been repaired, minor catch. Ben's Omnitrix now activates Ben 23's transformations and vice versa. This is going to do wonders for their teamwork dynamic. Back at the dig site, the Bens shift into Freeze, Ghost and Iguanoid, and the brawl resumes. They immobilize Mad Rook and his entire force. After discovering a dehydrated worker, the Bens transform into Blocks and Handyman to breach the water tower and let the workers drink. The Bens liberate the labor camp before Mad Ben re-emerges. Mad Ben shifts into energy and blasts the now rebellious workers. The Bens become Wrath and Thunderstruck before battling Mad Ben as Way-Big. Ben 23 transforms Ben into Nanomech, who pilots himself inside Way-Big and detonates from within, ending the fight. You can't enslave people and then cry foul when someone cheats Mad Ben. Mad Rook has experienced a genuine change of conscience and locks away Mad Ben's power watch, deeming him unfit to rule. The laborers are freed and the Bens are ready to depart, but Dr. Psychobos sabotages both Omnitrixes into time bombs so he can rule by default. The Bens transform transform into grey matter and brain frog, diffusing the explosion. Mad Rook and the workers then arrest both Mad Ben and Dr. Sikobos. The Bens attempt to get home, but they're stranded. Mercifully, the original Rook and Professor Hoekstra's dimension-hopping Mr. Smoothie materialize, and everyone gets safely back to their respective homes. Opening the final season of Ben 10 Omniverse is Let's Do the Time War Again. Rook and Ben are involved in a low-speed collision in Undertown, by which I mean Exo School smashes clean through the side of their vehicle and into the wall behind them, exposing a cluster of Time Beast eggs. A battle erupts between Ben as Feedback, Rook, Exo School, and Subdora. The heroes prevail, but a Time Beast materializes and devastates much of Undertown before breaking for the surface Feedback, and the Time Beast trade blasts, freezing all of Bellwood in a time stasis. Worst freeze tag match in history. Professor Paradox and Ben 10,000 appear on the scene and reverse time to just before the crash. Eon is in conference with Exo Skull and Subdora, plotting to steal the Time Beast eggs. Ben and Rook stumble into their operation by accident, and Eon hatches one of the eggs to produce a full-grown Time Beast. Ben 10,000 and Paradox teleport in, directing Ben and Rook to the surface to intercept the beast. Meanwhile, Ben Town shifts into Crash Hopper to handle the criminals alongside Paradox. Eon slips away while his accomplices are unconscious. On the surface, Gravatak and Spanner engage the beast, but blasting it triggers a destructive chain reaction that levels the city. The team rewinds time once more to just before the accident. Time travel is extraordinarily convoluted, so everyone fights everyone. Thank you. Eon escapes with 2 eggs and his associates, but the heroes successfully contain the Time Beast. Paradox takes past Ben and Rook back through time to complete the loop, and Eon delivers the Time Beast eggs to Maltruant. Rook is pulling a graveyard shift at Plumber HQ while Ben and Max are outside having a fantastic time fighting Yetta, who robbed a bank. Rook grumbles about the dull assignment, and then the power cuts out. Rook begins investigating, and the base immediately goes into complete lockdown. The culprit is Cyborg Kundo, who plans to erase all their systems and eliminate everyone inside. Since Max and Ben are locked out, Rook reluctantly accepts Fistina's help. Reluctantly, not because she's a criminal, but because she's unmistakably smitten with him. Honestly, fighting an evil space cyborg together sounds like a perfectly reasonable first date to me. Rook, I'll be honest, this assignment is unusually dull and occasionally disturbing. With the assistance of the Plumber, B-Team Rook, Fistina and Road Rage make it all the way to the base's central control. A fight breaks out. For a brief moment, Kundo appears to be defeated, but his unsettling laughter suggests otherwise. Outside, the wiring of the base erupts from the ground and fires an energy beam into the sky. Kundo announces he's infected the base with a self-destruct virus intended to eliminate Plumber bases across the entire galaxy. Safe to assume he was turned down by the Plumber Academy. Kundo and Rook go at it with Fistina's support. Ben arrives, shifting into upgrade to intercept the virus upload, but the core is already compromised. There's no time to evacuate Bellwood. The team launches Plumber HQ into space, where it detonates, so it doubles as a spacecraft. Yes, get exactly right. Every Plumber base is designed for orbital operation. Kundo is arrested and relocated to a distant, isolated planet. Max promotes Rook for his exceptional performance and tells Fistina she can enroll at the Plumber Academy once her sentence is served. Fistina is overjoyed at the idea of more time with Rook in her future. Up next is Vilgax attacks. Ben is deep in a video game session, furious at Skird for costing him a match. After Blue Kick and Dreba fail to detach Skird, the trio heads to Galvan Prime to consult Azmuth, and it's fortunate that's their destination, because Albedo and Vilgax are already there, having just absconded with Malware's remains, presumably not for any constructive reason. Azmuth easily detaches Skird, placing him in containment for further study. Luli alerts Azmuth that Malware's remains have gone missing. Then Vilgax deploys attack mech droids against the base. Time for a backup plan. Ben shifts into Ghost Freak to battle the mech droids. Vilgax, Za and Albedo in his ultimate form materialize, announcing their intention to conquer Galvan using Malware's remains, which have been reformed into combat armor. Vilgax demands Ben surrender the Omnitrix. Ben shifts into Diamond Head to fight Malware armored Vilgax, but gets launched all the way to Galvan B. Ben tries as Atomic, still not enough. Meanwhile, Blue Kick, Dreba and Luli do what they can against Albedo's ultimate Spider Monkey and Ultimate Wrath in Azmuth's lab. Ultimate Wrath blasts Azmuth with a laser, apparently vaporizing him. Fortunately, Blue Kick and Dreba collaborate and successfully rematerialize him. They aren't exactly the most analytical. Azmuth should probably be glad they cracked it at all. Might want to reconsider your current trajectory. Azmuth disables Albedo's Ultimatrix, locking him permanently in his 11-year-old form. That's a serious consequence. Ben attempts as Vampire. Still no match for Malware-powered Vilgampire contacts Azmuth requesting that Skird be cleared to reattach to the Omnitrix. Luli flies Skird to Vilgax's ship, enabling his reattachment. Ben as Vampire draws on Armadillo's arms to block the cannon, weapons and channels feedback's conductor hands to absorb Vilgax's full energetic output, launching him into the ship's warp core and destroying him. The vessel is seconds from detonation, but Ben extracts everyone using grav attack. At episode's end, Vilgax is petrified in stone, and Albedo faces planet-wide cleanup duty. The next episode is the end of an era. It takes place 20 years into the future in an alternate timeline led by Ben 10,000 and Kai, who are hosting a retirement gathering for Grandpa Max. First though, they have to stop Dr. Animo, who is again attempting to create a mutant army. Animo is neutralized by Spanner, who is at last revealed to be Kai and Ben 10,000's son Ken Tennyson. Ken, however, is concealing his superhero life from his parents. Everyone heads to Plumber HQ for the celebration. Rook is assuming Max's former position and Kevin is moving into Rook's old role, and everyone hush. The president of Earth is about to arrive. Argit holds the office. A genuine nightmare. Greetings all. Come now. Granted, I am the most powerful individual on the planet, but I'm still the same old me. Meanwhile, Subdora is infiltrating the base, receiving instructions from Maltruant and Exoskull. The power then fails due to a solar flare. Subdora seizes the opportunity to break into a vault and extract the Annihilar before hiding herself. Gwendolyn senses Maltruant's presence atop the base, aware he's seeking the dwarf star. Ken and Rook direct everyone to the hangar deck. Exoskull crashes in, seizing the dwarf star from around Argit's neck and supercharging himself. Outside, Maltruant confronts Kai, Ben 10,000 and Gwendolyn. Ben 10,000 transforms into Atomics and blasts the villain, but Maltruant maintains the upper hand. Spanner shows up, accidentally calling Ben 10,000 dad, inadvertently blowing his own cover. The battle rages on. Ben 10,000, Kai and Gwendolyn are suspended in time by Maltruant. For a moment it appears hopeless, until Ken appears escorting present-day Ben and Rook on their time cycles. Time's up, Maltruant. I remember your lines being sharper than that. Yeah, they've always been this level, Ben. That one needed more prep time. Maltruant, Exoskull, and Subdora engage the group, with Ben fighting as Vampire in Diamond Head armor. Thanks, Kurt. Maltruant continues working the Annihilar and Dwarf Star combination. He suspends Spanner in time before forcing Ben and Rook to stand down. Eon materializes through a portal wielding a time beast. Maltruant slips away, dispatching Eon back to his own era. The series finale of Ben 10 Omniverse is A New Dawn. It picks up directly from the last episode, with Maltruant fleeing accompanied by a time beast. Professor Paradox arrives and directs Ben and Rook to use the time cycles to pursue, though Ben as usual is somewhat reckless about it. But they immediately run into George Washington, so they've probably overshot the mark. Fortunately, Washington belongs to an organization that predates the Plumbers entirely, so he takes the situation mostly in stride. Maltruant tumbles into the same timeline and sends a distress call. A zombified redcoat soldier appears, and Ben shifts into Ghost Freak to fight alongside the president. They defeat the zombie and Washington cures the afflicted soldier. Rook identifies their coordinates as 1773. Right before the Revolutionary War, a young Vilgax spacecraft crash lands nearby, responding to Maltruant's signal, and the heroes move to investigate. POTUS charges toward Vilgax without hesitation. Ben joins the brawl as XLR-8, then Molstosh. Rook arrives on the time cycles, and he and Ben resume the chase after Maltruant, eventually landing aboard a Quintilian ship. Ben and Rook navigate to the bridge, which is being piloted by 3 Mr. Smoothie employees. Ben has never been more at ease. Rook remains suspicious of the Quintilians. Stories of them erasing universes follow them everywhere. Ben figures out Maltruant's endgame. Using the Annihilag, he intends to construct a universe built entirely to his own specifications. The Smoothie crew teleports Ben and Rook into the chamber where Maltruant is waiting, and a battle breaks out. Ben shifts into Chroma Stone but struggles to penetrate the protective shell surrounding the Annihilag. At the very moment Chroma Stone breaks through, the device drops through an access hatch, generating a black hole and releasing an enormous surge of energy. For a heartbeat, it looks like Ben may not have survived, but he captures the energy as feedback before cycling through nearly his entire alien repertoire, ultimately dismantling Maltruant and destroying the Annihilarg once and for all. Skird is reunited with his lineage. Professor Paradox arrives to offer his congratulations. He invites Ben and Rook to assist in scattering Maltruant's fragments across the galaxy before returning to their home universe. Ben is already bored. Having just stood at the literal birth of a new universe, that's honestly understandable. Ben proposes a road trip, calling Gwen to bring her and Kevin along on an exploration of the new universe. Something tells me that even in a freshly minted universe, they'll manage to find more than enough trouble to handle. And that's the complete chronicle of Ben 10 Omniverse. Let me know what you think of this chapter of the franchise in the comments below. See you next time.